Today on Doomed! Havana Syndrome. On this episode of Doomed with Matt Binder, we'll be talking about this mysterious whatever it is that apparently is affecting United States officials overseas. We'll break down exactly what's going on here, or what we think, or they think, is going on here. And maybe by the end of this show, I will have infected you all with Havana Syndrome, depending on what it is, whatever it may be. Who knows? And without any further ado, let me introduce to you my guest for this episode. First of all, let me bring her up on the screen here. There we are. Natalie Shure, a columnist for The New Republic. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Now, you have a piece out in The New Republic. Came out a couple of weeks ago, actually last month, with Havana Syndrome, Washington is repeating Colin Powell's worst mistake. And you also have a piece coming out, I believe, this weekend?
Yeah, it should come out Saturday.
On Havana Syndrome. And you really are, in my opinion, the official Havana Syndrome person. You are the expert on this, at least in terms of people looking at it and not just taking it for what U.S. officials are claiming it is without any real definitive proof.
Well, thanks. I can't take total credit. A lot of people have done a ton of skeptical reporting before me. I think that, I've done a lot of research and synthesis, and I think I'm angrier and more exasperated than a lot of the people who have done this reporting before me, but I don't want to take credit for it. People like Jack Hitt, Dan Hurley have done some really great reporting, and, without some of the things that they've brought to light, I think that this story would be a little murkier.
Perfect. And, you being the most angry about it is exactly why you're perfect for this show.
Thank you.
Now, first of all, people are probably listening and wondering, let's take it from here. Let's say you know nothing about Havana Syndrome. You haven't heard about it at all in the news. What is Havana Syndrome?
So this story is several years in the making. It came to light publicly in early to mid 2017, but it started a bit before that. At the very, very end of 2016 in Cuba, someone that we now know was a CIA operative under diplomatic cover felt really sick all of a sudden. Some odd symptoms, some dizziness, some hearing loss, some ringing in his ears, some headaches, things like that. Shows up at the embassy medical center. They don't really know what to make of it. He experiences similar symptoms a few weeks later. At some point, either he floats the idea or someone else, they kind of start to wonder, hey, is this related to this really odd ringing sound I've been hearing a lot lately at my home? Some other people had called about a similar ringing sound. So I think that kind of, makes people perk up and wonder. Within a few weeks, there are a few more people reporting symptoms of chronic malaise, as I describe them. Things like headaches, fatigue, a little bit of vertigo, things like that. And at some point, they basically started to put together this ringing sound and some of these illnesses that they're seeing among, at first, mostly just CIA operatives under diplomatic cover, but then it starts spreading to, a lot of the people working in the Cuban embassy, people in the consular service division, et cetera. So, the illness spreads. More and more people develop symptoms that they can't explain. And, pretty early on, it seems as if the State Department kind of starts to suspect that this could be a weapon. At first, they kind of described it as a sonic weapon. That was the working thesis. They sat down everybody who's working in Havana at the time in early 2017 after just a few cases, and they basically sit all these people down and say, look, we don't know what's going on. We think it's possible that you and your family members might be targeted by a mysterious weapon we know nothing about. So if you start to feel headaches, stomach aches, you feel a little off balance, just let us know. We think it could be a sonic attack. And, unsurprisingly, dozens and dozens of people come forward to get checked out. They start to, look into these cases. A clinical team sees them in Miami. They start calling it Havana Syndrome. They start suspecting that this is the work of a weapon. At first, they thought this was under the Trump administration. There was, this immediate chest-thumping assertion that Cuba was probably behind it. And, this obviously dovetailed very conveniently with the fact that the Trump administration was already, very happy to have a pretext to scale back our diplomatic presence in Cuba that had been ramped up during détente under Obama. So this was used as a pretext to basically, par Cuba back down to a skeleton crew in terms of American presence there. But then cases start to spread beyond Cuba, first to China, then to several other countries. I don't know what year and month exactly it spread to which countries, but there have now been alleged cases in Russia, in Vienna, in Colombia, and in the United States, and in Arlington, Virginia, and right in front of the White House. So this has now been going on for several years. There is still no concrete evidence that these were weapons. They did switch from sonic weapons, which makes no sense, to directed energy or microwave weapons, which still makes no sense, but in a different way. And this has just had such a hold on the imaginations of the people in the national security blob. They won't let go of it, and that is still the working thesis for a lot of people in several government agencies. Talking about it being an act of war, talking about potentially sanctioning those behind it, strong suspicion that it's Russia, and that the Cubans probably knew about it and said nothing. And that is where we're at.
Now, I'm assuming that all of the cases outside of Cuba have happened in those respective countries as little Havanas, right? That's just so bizarre that they would think this thing would spread like that, especially when it doesn't make sense even for the weaponry, I guess, if you could even call it, that they originally claimed it was. Like, it just doesn't work that way, unless they're claiming that all these countries have their very own Havana Syndrome maker machine.
Yeah. So, I can't claim to be an expert in military technology, but my understanding is that the thing that this weapon would have to be, like all of the parameters that it would have to meet to fit into this narrative. So, either building them in several countries or several different countries and people having them, or it being so nimble and portable that it can, move across the globe without being detected, but it's also strong enough to presumably target people from far away. People felt this in their homes, which means it would have to go through walls. They develop, chronic symptoms but don't have any, burning sensations or damage to their skin. A lot of microwaves, I think, at a high enough quantity would damage Wi-Fi signals, electronics around. That's never been reported. So when you really sit down and list all of the things that this weapon would have to be, my understanding is that it just does not comport with the laws of physics. To whatever extent we do have directed energy weapons, they are mostly things like crowd control devices. There is something that I think uses either microwaves or something like microwaves, and the idea is that law enforcement would use them on protesters, and it would basically have like a microwave, make someone feel warm, give them a burning sensation, and basically make a crowd disperse. But the idea that they inflict chronic symptoms like headache, fatigue, nausea, etc., it just does not line up well with what a lot of people say that these weapons do.
Right. And before we go any further, I have a lot to say based on what you just said. I want to make it clear to people, if it wasn't completely clear, it appears that the Havana Syndrome is bullshit, right?
That is, yes, that is absolutely my thesis. I think that, so basically my thesis is, if I had to guess, I think that in Havana itself, the first few cases probably followed a classic pattern of what used to be called mass hysteria, what people now call mass sociogenic illness. The best way to think about sociogenic illness is the diagnosis spreads socially in the same way that, a pathogen spreads from person to person. The idea and understanding of this diagnosis also can. In history, there have been a ton of cases of mass sociogenic illness, mass hysteria. One very famous one that is framed that way by a lot of researchers now is the Salem witch trials. Some of those girls had these fits of illness, these pseudo seizures, whatever they were, and then, understood them to have been brought on by witchcraft. From there, it's probably a mix of some girls faking it, some doing it involuntarily, some being so petrified that they are sent into a tizzy of some kind. It's difficult to pinpoint on an individual level what is driving these. But what I am guessing happened in Cuba is, this was a situation that was incredibly stressful. It's very, very relevant, I think, that these cases began to appear right after Trump took office. So obviously their personal and professional lives are changing drastically. A lot of these people had just moved to Havana in 2015. Under Obama, there was a warming of relations between the U.S. and Cuba for the first time in many decades, and they ramped up diplomatic presence. And so, on the ground, obviously they're bringing more CIA agents there because they have a pretext to bring them there for, diplomatic cover. But there are also, people working for like the consular division, normal people who are upending their lives, bringing their whole families to Cuba. Months in, the rug gets pulled out from under them. It's stressful. They don't know what's going to happen, to their work lives, to their relationships. Total slap in the face, blah, blah, blah. So I think that, that context where a few people start to feel symptoms that are classic symptoms of stress, things like headaches, things like fatigue, dizziness, like those are very well documented symptoms of stress, ringing in ears, etc. And then these people heard very early on that they were potentially in danger, that their neighbors were being attacked, that the hypothetical attacks were associated with this strange ringing sound, which a lot of people had also heard. This very famously, some people recorded it and they played it for each other at the embassy. Before new recruits came to move to Cuba, the State Department would play these recordings for new people so that they would know what to listen for. This recording turned out to be a species of cricket that lives in Cuba. So the ringing sound was very common, and a lot of people had heard it, which I think made them freak out that, okay, if that's the sound, then maybe I have been targeted. Oh my gosh, what is this headache? Starting to filter and notice things that you might just ordinarily shrug off. It's also possible that, some of these people, so I think from there, once Havana Syndrome took hold with the sound, with the very stressful situation, from there, the narrative takes hold, and then everyone who has a job like this in Cuba and then in other countries beyond has heard these stories, right? Like, they know that their colleagues are potentially being targeted, that they are part of a group of people that's potentially being targeted. And so, some of them might have symptoms of stress, anxiety, depression, etc. Unexplained symptoms are very common. Who knows? I think others are possibly filtering. If you've heard all of these things, like I said, you get a headache, you're gonna start to think the worst. You're going to start noticing every scratch in your throat, etc. You'll mention not feeling well, and someone else is going to really convince you that that's something you should see a doctor over, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, I think that, you can see how it would snowball in any number of ways. Some people might just have something completely unrelated that's, undiagnosed brain tumor or something. Any number of things. But
that actually makes it more dangerous if someone out there who thinks they're suffering from Havana syndrome isn't getting checked out for something actual and serious like that. Yeah. And then because they think it's Havana syndrome.
That was just a random example. I think they are getting checked out to some degree. I don't want to imply that there's no investigation going on at all, but misdiagnosis happens all the time in medicine.
Right. I mean, for me, I know. If you were to ask me if I've ever suffered from Havana syndrome, I would say yes. But my version of Havana syndrome is that every time I hear someone say Havana syndrome, I just automatically hear in the back of my head that Camille Cabello song, Havana, oh na na. It's just automatic.
Oh yeah.
So every time I hear someone say Havana, just right away I just hear it. It's just like, nah. And then let me get back to where now we got that because I wanted to get that clear because I wasn't sure if we quite made it clear enough to people that this was not really a thing. Let me get back to what you said earlier. Has there been any non-Americans who have claimed to suffer from this, or is this only affecting Americans?
Very initially in the Cuban cohort, there were a few Canadians that also believed that they had been targeted. This was, especially sinister to the investigators initially because the relationship between Cuba and Canada is quite good compared to the relationship between the U.S. and Cuba. But it turned out that those Canadians all knew the targeted Americans personally. They were neighbors. They had chatted. They were subject to the same social influences as were the Americans who believed that they were victims of these attacks. So it's not too hard to understand why they felt that they had been victimized too. And as far as I know, there have not been any cases in foreign nationals. I will say, so this is something, it's I don't want to say anything mean about these people, but there is a group of people that describe themselves as targeted individuals who are mentally ill people in the U.S. and around the world. I think probably mostly, people with different schizoaffective disorders who believe that they are being stalked by weapons along these lines and have really latched onto the Havana Syndrome story and are organizing to push for recognition that this happens in civilian populations too. But they are not part of the classic Havana Syndrome narrative as reported by national security reporters, and that's been elevated by the media.
Right. Now you had said earlier that there is work being done on Havana Syndrome in terms of like researching it and at least checking these people out, their symptoms, and trying to figure out what's going on here. What has the research basically found? Like like you mentioned, the media, especially national security reporters, have been pushing Havana Syndrome. We'll go more into that in a minute. But is there some sort of scientific or medical research or study that they're basically like hanging their hat on, like that they're leaning on to back up their claims?
Yeah, so there have been a few studies that they point to. Right when there were a few cases very early on that were tied to the screeching noise in Cuba, they were sent to this clinical team in Miami, headed by this guy named Michael Hoffer, who he basically he has a security clearance, and he's worked with the military on brain injuries in soldiers in Iraq and Afghanistan, that kind of thing. And so he looked at several of the early cases and ended up publishing two studies. These studies, he has touted them as, objective proof that something happened to these people. But the claims that he's made in the media have really wildly outpaced what the studies actually show. He has been, again, a military guy, very confident about, referring to these as probable microwave attacks, overstating the findings. He used this measurement tool that are these like goggles that tend to be used like on the sidelines during a sports game to like gauge if someone might have a concussion, but they're not necessarily used a lot in clinical medicine. He has potentially a proprietary relationship with them. His studies were both published in like Z-list journals. Sometimes those kind of journals publish good work, like these predatory, obscure journals. But I think that if this study that claims to have objective proof that these people were attacked by a heretofore unknown weapon, and it can only be published in like a Z-list journal, one of which this doctor was on the actual board of, that's a red flag, right? That shouldn't necessarily imbue you with confidence about the level of work. A couple years later, in 2018, the State Department commissioned a scientific study into this that was just released via FOIA to a reporter this year. But that study specifically expressed a lot of concern about this researcher, this ear, nose, and throat military doctor who claimed that there's objective evidence of brain injury in these people. So there was that. Then there was also a clinical team at the University of Pennsylvania, which is, a little more above board. They published two studies in the Journal of the American Medical Association. Also, I think, pretty assertive that, oh yeah, there's something here. There's something here. I think that so there were two studies. One, two sets of MRIs. One was a normal clinical MRI that you might get if you go to the hospital, and those really showed nothing amiss. The other set of MRIs was a more sensitive, deeper research MRI that did show a few differences between these patients, the Havana Syndrome patients, and control patients. But they're the sort of changes that aren't necessarily unusual, that, potentially could be caused by any number of things, depression, stress, anxiety, substance use, etc. It's not as if any MRI holds up a little sign that says, a microwave weapon was here.
Right.
The idea that there is, the idea that any brain imaging shows irrefutable evidence of any of this is, a completely erroneous idea that somehow made its way into this conversation. I also think it's important, both sets of physicians um, were basically brought these circle told, hey, we think these people might have been attacked by something mysterious. Can you check them out and tell us if we're right? Like, I think a lot of, I think that it's very possible to imagine that someone would be like professionally swept up by that sort of suggestion and that sort of, excitement maybe is even a way to think about it. But certainly that clinician, Douglas Smith, the lead author on those studies, I think has definitely overstated what his research says too. Even more concerning, the Smith article said something along the lines of, these symptoms can't be psychogenic because there's no way they could fake these things. And that really misunderstands what sociogenic illness is. I don't think that these people are faking. I think that they are suffering. I think that they are being utterly sincere. And they just were never attacked by weapons, and these weapons don't exist. And all of those things can be true at the same time.
Right, right. Now you brought up the weapons again, so that's perfect because that was going to be the next thing I wanted to bring up. The idea that these, I feel like, with the U.S. military being, the most, well-funded and most powerful military entity in the world, we would know, at least, I gotta assume, somewhat, what these weapons were, if they really were truly some sort of weaponry out there pulling this off. But they don't seem to know, and like you said, it doesn't seem like the technology behind these weapons even exists. What is the claim really that like Cuba has figured out some like technological advancement that U.S. has, and I'm not putting Cuba down. I mean, they're very intelligent. They have medical breakthroughs there, obviously, and well educated doctors and medical field. What I'm saying is like this seems like expensive technology that at least the U.S. would be aware of if it existed.
Yeah, I mean, so most people, most proponents of this theory think that Russia has done it and that Cuba is in on it. So Cuba just knows what's going on and isn't saying anything.
Has anyone asked those people what year they think it is? Because I mean, come on.
Yeah, I mean, I think that would be a worthwhile question. The year when it comes to the weapons research is important because a lot of proponents of the theory like to say, oh well, Russia has long been doing this kind of research, or this kind of project existed, and a lot of it is outdated. Like, it is true that Russia and to some extent the United States has done a lot of research into this kind of thing, but a lot of it ended decades ago, largely because it wasn't super fruitful. So, the idea that there's super extensive contemporaneous research into this kind of weapon, I haven't found too much strong evidence of that kind of thing. As for whether the military could detect it or not, I guess I don't know too much about like warcraft, spycraft, that kind of thing. But I do think that the fact that, yeah, years and years into this, the most powerful, richest country on earth with the biggest military, with the biggest, intelligence apparatus, does not have a shred of concrete evidence, not just about who wielded this weapon, but whether there is a weapon, whether these illnesses were caused by weapons at all. Like, that should give people just extraordinary pause. I think that says a lot. We've got nothing, and it's been 5 years. And yeah, I mean, at some point, people will say absence of evidence isn't evidence of absence, but God, at some point it has to be, right? Like when you're claiming a completely imaginary hypothetical theory, I guess it could always be true because it's hard to disprove total nonsense.
Right, right. Now in your piece in the New Republic, you draw a pretty straight line to how back during the Bush administration, how reminiscent this is of Colin Powell before the UN and the Bush administration trying to convince everyone that Saddam Hussein in Iraq has weapons of mass destruction. Do you think like what is the play here from the U.S. The security state here? You think like it's not like are they trying to go to war with Cuba, or is this more directly to continue pushing our issues with Russia? Which to me it's always bizarre because there are plenty real problems with Russia, where the U.S. doesn't need to make this stuff up. Like there are legitimate issues with Russia, but I guess they feel like they can't make those because maybe it hits too close to home too. What do you think the play is here?
Yeah, so I mean, this is definitely the point at which I've like lightly followed this story for a few years now, and I thought it was amusing that I always just thought it was complete BS, and so seeing people very very seriously pontificate about weapons was just funny to me. And then over the past year or so, it really started to piss me off for some of the reasons that you're talking about. I think that the weapons theory just will not die. You have people who are really agitating for a response of some kind. One of the highest profile victims, quote unquote, this guy Mark Polymeropoulos, who was in the CIA. He's pretty openly and explicitly connected this to Russia and has started talking about retaliation in the form of troop buildup in NATO countries, etc., things like that. It is one of those things where the more this narrative persists, the more there will be internal and external pressure to do something about it. That said, in terms of what the play is, the answer is a little more complicated. I feel like a lot of people, on left Twitter, which thankfully is very skeptical about Havana Syndrome, pretty universally as far as I can tell. I feel like a lot of people, assert that it's clear that the CIA is making this up as a pretext. What the reaction and how it's played out looks to me is that there's a lot of internal division about this. I think that there is an extremely passionate, noisy cohort that absolutely believes that these are mysterious, invisible attacks by Russia and that they are really driving the narrative. But the narrative would have gotten further by now were it not for the fact that there are within these agencies a ton of people just don't buy it, and I think are mostly just not saying anything, either because they're not certain or because it's awkward because they don't want to come out and contradict their colleagues' stories about being targeted. Um, so yeah, I think that it's not necessarily a an intelligent design with someone being a puppet master coming up with this story so as to be able to expand military presence on the Russian border or whatever it is. I think that it's something that began organically, that a lot of people latched onto, that kind of has a life of its own at this point. But I do think it's dangerous because if it doesn't get stopped in its tracks, if people don't come to their senses, you can't peddle the idea that there has been attacks around the globe and not expect there to be some response. I mean, a lot of public officials are kind of already coming at it from that direction. Susan Collins, Tim Kaine, Marco Rubio, Gene Sheehan, like they are definitely all on the Havana Syndrome train and are, chest thumping about how we have to capital D, do something. So I think, even though not everyone buys it, it can still end up in a dangerous place.
Did the Trump administration ever make any claims about Havana Syndrome?
So in the very, very early days, they did accept it and, like I said, use it as a major pretext
Right.
to scale back diplomatic presence in Cuba, which of course is something that they already wanted to do. Marco Rubio was an early traveler. Of course, like his whole shtick is "I hate Cuba." So as soon
Right.
as there was a rumbling about this, he stands up and "What did I tell you?" That kind of thing.
Yeah.
Um, by all accounts, Gina Haspel seems to not have bought it. Um, there was a lot of hesitancy to move on it. The Trump administration commissioned this State Department independent science panel that determined not only that reflected a sociogenic
Sorry, Natalie.
component to
The
this.
Skype call
Um,
broke up a little bit. Can you just go back a little bit?
oh, yeah. So Gina Haspel, I think, was pretty skeptical of this from the get-go. There wasn't necessarily a lot of movement from other agencies either. The Trump State Department is the one that commissioned this independent scientific advisory panel that ended up determining not only that that recording was crickets, but that there was likely a sociogenic component to all this. So I think that the Trump administration was kind of, acting in the way that you'd expect when maybe there are some people who think this is happening and a lot don't. I do think that perhaps that informed the political reaction under the Biden administration. I think a lot of people who were onlookers, or people who were critical of Trump and adjacent to the NatSec blob probably resented the idea that our troops are getting attacked by Trump's favorite country and he's not doing anything. Well, I'll do something. I will avenge these attacks. I think that there might be that dynamic at play to some extent. Um, but knock on wood, it's not a fully unified response. But that said, I think that the people who are utterly convinced that this is directed energy weapons and that these are attacks, there's a huge enthusiasm gap between those people who care very, very deeply and think this is the most important thing in the world, and the people who kind of think it's bullshit but just aren't saying anything, right? Like, it's easy for that group to get steamrolled. And so I think it's important that there be an angry response to those chest thumpers.
Right. Now, who are we talked about who in the government is sort of pushing this, but obviously, as you mentioned, this is being buoyed by the media. Who are some of the people really pushing this really to the public? Because the government's just claiming what they think this is. It's the reporter, the journalist, the job to really write the articles that get in front of people who are gonna say, hey, what's this Havana Syndrome thing here? We have to do something about this, America.
Yeah. So by far, the most egregious and irresponsible journalist on this topic has been Julia Ioffe. She last year wrote a very splashy magazine piece that focused on this guy, Mark Polymeropoulos, that I mentioned earlier, and that really very explicitly, with barely any hedging, talked about these as being attacks, talked about Russia as being behind it.
Like outright, like
very,
that's like factual, not like a theory. Like Russia is behind it.
yeah, I mean, she framed it as a mystery, but then throughout the whole piece, really talked about it as if it was a foregone conclusion in a way that I'm actually surprised got past the editors. So her GQ piece, I think, got a ton of attention. And, I mean, she's a good writer stylistically. So I think it was like a well-paced, sensational story that really just drew people in. She wrote an even more egregiously reported story for Puck News, which is a new news outlet that probably not many people have heard of. But so she has not scaled back her ridiculousness when it comes to this story. Adam Entus with The New Yorker has been more careful. He has never just, explicitly and casually framed them as attacks without hedging the way that Iafi has. But I do think that he's been incredibly credulous about the narrative itself. He's been, very dismissive of the idea that this could be sociogenic. He's a little more agnostic about who's behind it, but I think has absolutely bought into the more toxic parts of the narrative. And because he writes for The New Yorker and has written several really extensively reported pieces on this, I think has done a lot of heavy lifting in terms of bringing this narrative to the public. There's this new Andrew Desiderio and Laura Seligman, I think, at Politico have started to follow the story in a completely credulous way. Ed Yong and a national security team at the New York Times used to publish a lot of bullcrap about this. I haven't seen them do it lately, and New York Times has actually published 2 recent skeptical op-eds, so maybe there's been, some pushback internally there. There have also been some, TV reporters at NBC, MSNBC, who have taken this incredibly seriously and who frame any idea, any suggestion that this could be sociogenic as something that's, just egregiously cruel to these poor victims, which is very frustrating. But it's definitely been a group effort. A lot of people have peddled this in a way that really just makes you want to smack your forehead.
Right. I mean, even if you don't want to outright dismiss the possibility, you also can't outright just spread rumor and hearsay and theories to make the claim either. You need to show the skepticism all around, at the very least, I would assume.
Yeah, I mean, that's what surprises me so much about it. I've thought a lot about this, and I think that one reason that narrative has stuck, and one reason that they think that sociogenic illness sounds so implausible, is that a lot of people don't understand just how common these symptoms really are. They can be extremely debilitating. People are suffering a lot. It can even be the kind of thing, people who have these symptoms can need time off work, can be disabled by them. All of those things can be true. And it's also true that clusters of symptoms like, headaches, fatigue, dizziness, ringing ears, things like that. I mean, I'm sure that people in your life who have experienced things like that, who have been debilitated by things like that, possibly connected to mental health, possibly not, and maybe just never even diagnosed. I think something like 25 to 50% of primary care and outpatient neurology visits can be these unexplained symptoms. A lot of shit happens in our bodies and with our health that can't totally be explained.
Right.
And so the idea that this has happened to, a total of 200 or 300 Americans out of the tens of thousands that we have stationed overseas over a course of 5 years is not remarkable at all.
Right.
And so I think that if more people understood just how common these symptom presentations are, that would really change the context, because it would no longer look like, well, how did all of these people get sick then? Or how do you explain this? Like, it's very easy to explain.
Right.
It's unfortunate. I'm sorry that people are sick and I'm sorry that they're suffering, but it is not this mystery. It's not that confusing. It's something that we live with every day. It's something that, you know, double digit percentage of the population might be dealing with at any given time, depending on the symptom. So I think if more people understood that, a lot of the lingering questions about this would fall away.
Yeah, these symptoms seem pretty, basic all around. Like these are symptoms that, like, you have through just like, you get a migraine, or obviously there are worse symptoms people are saying, but again, all very big, like the ringing of your ears, like, obviously that's maybe not something that happens as often as the headache and things like that, but that's still something that happens, and to not have an underlying, like, virus or something to associate it with. It seems bizarre to just assume that it's this mysterious illness being, created by these energy microwave weapons. Has there been any, on the flip side? You had mentioned, medical and scientific research that went into trying to prove that this is a thing. Has there been, on the flip side, any medical or scientific researchers who have looked at this and said, like, from a non-political standpoint, like from the scientific standpoint, like this just not make any sense? It's not possible.
Yeah, there's definitely been a growing chorus of people who are skeptical from a number of angles. Um, Two of the most persistently skeptical and whose work I find pretty persuasive is this team, Robert Bartholomew and Robert Ballo. Robert Bartholomew is, I believe, a sociologist at maybe the University of Auckland in New Zealand, I want to say. And he is basically the world's expert on mass sociogenic illness. He's written a ton, like a couple books about this kind of thing. He's written a ton of review articles. I sat and Skyped with him once, and he straight up told me, I would bet my life that this is mass sociogenic illness. It just fits the pattern so perfectly. It doesn't really leave any lingering questions. So he's really pushed back a lot. He co-wrote a book with this guy named Robert Ballo, who is a neurologist from UCLA. And he originally was one of the peer reviewers on the first JAMA study presented by Doug Smith's team. So, this brain injury team from the University of Pennsylvania that's upheld as evidence that these people have brain injuries that were caused by weapons. He recommended that the journal not publish it. He basically said it was science fiction. He said that, the abnormalities were not very specific, could be explained by a lot of things. The journal, bulldozed him and published it anyway, which is not necessarily super common. That, if you have one peer reviewer really emphatically say this should not be published, this is science fiction, it's surprising that it did get published. But I think that probably speaks to, this was splashy and this was sexy, and a lot of institutions get carried away by that kind of thing. Or like excited to be in on the ground floor of this, new and horrifying novel story. So the two of them have been pretty outspoken. I think I've read, more and more comments from physicians, clinicians, especially, I think coming from the same point of view that I was just describing, that, I think maybe a national security person reads like these spies were at the top of their game, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, hear a strange noise, have a sharp pain, and then couldn't stop having headaches, couldn't stand up straight. Like, I think that, for a national security reporter without much context about health and illness, that sounds like, oh my gosh, case closed. What else could that be? These guys aren't crazy. Like, they're smart, tough guys. Well, how do you explain this? And I think that for a lot of people with more experience with clinical medicine, I think that they hear a story like that and it's very familiar. they have a lot of sympathy for it, but I think that, you know, they approach it from a completely different direction.
Right.
So I've heard some pushback from them. In terms of other scientists, Cheryl Rofer and Kenneth Foster. Uh, Kenneth Foster, excuse me. Kenneth Foster is an expert on microwaves, and he has said that this doesn't make sense, that it's really not plausible. He's had a lot of funny lines saying that these things are caused by microwave weapons. You might as well say that little green men landed from Mars to do this. That's how plausible it sounds. And he's at UPenn. And then Cheryl Rofer worked, I want to say, at Los Alamos. She was a chemist at Argonne National Laboratory and has said that the weapon as described is just not scientifically plausible.
Right.
So there have been some people pushing back against this, but at the end of the day, excuse me, it's a very complicated story. Like, as someone who has fallen down this stupid rabbit hole, it takes a long time to figure out the ins and outs. And I think a lot of people just are tuned out most of the time, like any of us, and haven't necessarily heard all of the details. And if they did, maybe they'd be more skeptical.
Right. To think this all seemingly started with crickets, right? I mean, that really seems to be the real, the real issue here is those crickets,
I mean, I think if it weren't for the cricket noises that everyone agreed that they recognized, not knowing they were crickets at the time, that's what made them go to weapons so quickly, and that just really got entrenched. I think who knows if they would have thought maybe this is an attack without that, but that is how they landed on that theory and just have not left it since.
Right. This has been really fascinating, and really, I think this is something most people don't know too much about, and whether or not they've heard of Havana Syndrome, I'm sure it's not something that's just gonna go away in terms of suddenly there's. I mean, it could, I guess. I mean, I guess if they realize this isn't working, it does seem like something that could be. I feel like it's at the cusp of, like, it could just be dropped, and most people would just forget it to history.
Well, and that is usually how mass sociogenic illness ends. Basically people stop talking about it, they forget about it, and things die down. Because I think, the media and the, social buildup is part of what spreads these illnesses. And I think that Havana syndrome is just this interesting situation where, because there is this national security component, it won't die.
Right.
Like, there are people who, because they think they are fighting enemies and getting to the bottom of this big story, like journalists and patient advocates themselves and people within these agencies really just keep pushing it, and that's why it's still happening.
Right. Natalie Shure, columnist for New Republic. The article in the New Republic is in the description on the YouTube and Patreon page. Where is your next piece, the one that's coming out this weekend? By the time, the live stream viewers will have to wait, but if people who catch this on the podcast, your piece will probably be out by the time this goes up. So where can people find that piece?
It's in Slow Boring, which is Matt Iglesias' Substack. So a long piece, really going through a lot of the details. Reporting. So if you want to see that it really gets into the nitty gritty of why this is ridiculous, I recommend it.
It sounds really interesting. Based on what we were just talking about right now, I really look forward to reading it. Where also, feel free to promote anything else you'd like. Tell people where they can find you online. Anything else you have coming up that you want to plug that may or may not be Havana Syndrome related. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm on Twitter at Natalie Shirley, NataliesSurely, and spend way too much time on that website. So would love to see anybody.
I think that's the syndrome we actually really do all have, and we know the cause of that one. Right. Take care, Natalie. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. It was really fascinating stuff.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Matt. It was fun.
Take care.
Have a good one.
All right, everybody. I gotta tell you, I was whoops, this is not what I want to do. Give me 1 second here. This is what I want to do. I was really thinking about playing this sound clip before the show started. I was thinking about playing this sound clip every time the word Havana was mentioned. Nah. And then it dawned on me right before I hit it for the intro of the show that maybe I should save it and just do it once during the actual interview, because I didn't want people to find it distracting, which it certainly would have been, being that we said Havana so many times during obviously a show on the Havana Syndrome. It would have been bad, but I think that's the real Havana Syndrome. Because I honestly can't say the word Havana without hearing that. Let's go to the second half of the show. But before doing that, let me plug a few things. First of all, patreon.com/Matt Binder. And bad news, didn't get many patrons over this past week or so. I would say a weekly low, to be honest. Our new patrons, who really, I gotta extra shout out to these folks for giving me something to mention during this part of the show. John P. and Dan S. Thank you so much for becoming patrons. Usually have at least a few more names to mention. Don't want to dip below the goal, folks. We've had, obviously there's ebbs and flows and cancellations and new subscribers, but as you can see, the new subscribers didn't quite match up with the cancellations, and we're threatening to dip below that 300 plus mark. So if you've ever thought of becoming a patron on Patreon, and haven't already, now would be a great time to do so. Patreon.com/Matt Binder. On the flip side, over at twitch.tv/Matt Binder, since I've been an affiliate, I've gotten a number of paid subscriptions there. So if Twitch is your thing, feel free to do the paid subscription there. If you are a Patreon subscriber or can't afford to be a Patreon subscriber, and want to know a way to monetarily support this show more, or at all, and are an Amazon Prime subscriber, at no extra cost to you, Amazon gives you one free paid Twitch subscription each month. So if you have Amazon Prime already, like you already pay for it, or your parents already pay for it, or a loved one that you're sharing an account with is already paying for it, and they're not already subscribed to someone on Twitch, you can basically give me free money from Jeff Bezos. Again, costs nothing extra to you if you're already an Amazon Prime subscriber. Just got to connect your Twitch account to your Amazon Prime account, and then you go to twitch.tv/Matt Binder, and you can subscribe. Give me some of Jeff Bezos' money, again, at no extra cost to you. Some people have done that already at Twitch. Some people have actually paid for Twitch subscriptions. I guess they're more Twitch users. That's cool. The people who have subscribed to my Twitch channel with a paid subscription over the past, since the last episode of the show, let me give them a shout out too. Series Business, Real Ace Attorney, Delusium. Let's see who else. Mad as Hell, Miranda Montana, with the subscription and a community gift subscription. Oh, that's a bonus right there. Process Psych 7 with a subscription. Killed by Magikarp with a subscription. Focac with a Twitch subscription. And I think that might be everyone since the last episode of the show. Yes, I think that is. Thank you all. Oh, we got someone jumping in at the last minute over on Twitch. White Damp with the Twitch subscription. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. You could also support this show by subscribing at youtube.com/MattBinder. Following on Twitch, that's free. That's different from the Twitch subscription, twitch.tv/MattBinder. Leave a podcast review, ratethispodcast.com/doomed. That's ratethispodcast.com/doomed. Go there. There's a list of links where you can leave reviews for this show. The podcast version of the show goes up a few days after the live stream. Doomedcast.com is where you can catch that. This past Tuesday, I did a Twitch stream that I also cut for YouTube later on, breaking down a Jimmy Dore segment on the Kyle Rittenhouse trial. Just really not good work over there at the Dore show on this, and I broke it down. You should check that out. What else? Follow me at Matt Binder on Twitter, Instagram, wherever you wanna check me out. Still demonetized on YouTube. So fortunately, still ain't getting any super chats. But if you go to my Twitter account on your smartphone, your mobile device. Mobile phone works too, even though it makes me sound like an old man. And you go to my Twitter account, there is a tip jar option where you can go there, click that tip jar, and Twitter will show you my Patreon, but also my Venmo and Cash App account. If you can't subscribe for the recurring fee of Patreon, and you're not much of a Twitch person, you can go and give me a one-time thank you, tip, donation, whatever you want to call it, via Venmo or Cash App. Totally up to you. And also, as always, if you can't monetarily support the show at all, I totally understand. Don't feel the pressure of doing that. But you can still help out this show greatly by just telling people about it. Share YouTube clips that you see that you like. Tell people to check out the podcast if your friend or family member is more of a podcast listener. Just get it out there if you can. If you really enjoy the show and want to support, that's a really great way you can. What else? I think that's it. Let's go to the second half of the show. I'll be opening up the phone lines. Open up your Skype app and call in Doomed Live. Just search Doomed Live. You'll see it show up on Skype. I'm signing into the phone system now. What else? I think that's it for now. I was on the Majority Report earlier today. Feel free to check that out. Oh, I also had a hit with the BBC Radio and their podcast on the a crypto story, which I'll talk more about in the second half of the show that we're going into now. And if you're on the live stream, if you're a Patreon subscriber, feel free to stick around. If you're not watching live and you're not subscribed to the Patreon, I will see you all next time on Doomed. All right, we are back. Hello, Patreon subscribers and live viewers. How are you all doing? Thank you for sticking around. What else? Let's see. Let's see. Phone lines are open. Doomed Live. I got into it today with crypto people as usual on Twitter. Should I get into that crypto story now? I feel like I need a little break actually after that interview in terms of like jumping right into another. Perfect. Got a caller. This will help me re-energize for another full-blown story. Hey, who's calling in?
Hi, Matt. It's Tony from Texas. How are you doing today?
Hey, Tony from Texas. Ooh, you got the it's not Oculus, whatever your VR headset
VR.
is.
Yeah, got
We
the VR going. Hold, give me just one sec. I gotta mute you on YouTube real quick.
All right. I'm gonna pull up your video here so people can see the VR. I love when you do this because it's. I feel like we're giving people a live stream experience that they aren't finding on any other show like this one. At least I'm sure there's VR live streamers, but I mean, I'm sure the other VR live streamers are not using their virtual reality headset to discuss politics. So,
Right.
I might have to give you the full screen here. I might have to take my stuff off completely. Let's see. What's going on here? What am I looking at?
So, this is a memorial piece for a friend of mine that passed recently.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Going to
My
say,
condolences.
I appreciate it. It was an unforeseen accident, but I thought, I'd do something to honor him for his memorial service tomorrow. And so, yeah, I drew this candle or this chalice, flaming chalice, and it's actually kind of a weird play on the optics because it's all layered and stretched out over a huge distance. It just looks like the thing from the center position. So yeah,
Ah,
just a little fun with perspective and point of view there.
that's very
Um,
nice. I think it looks very
Thanks.
nice.
I appreciate that. But yeah, so I kind of wanted to talk about crypto stuff, sort
Ooh,
of.
you know me. I
Um,
love when people want to talk crypto on here. So, in fact, there were a few people who claimed, I don't know how serious they were. We'll see. I always say phone line is always open. Anyone can call in. I don't monitor calls, so if you think you're gonna call in and I'm gonna like see who it is and not pick up your phone call, I will take anyone and everyone. Some crypto people today said they were gonna call into the show, which I don't think you were one of those people who said that, but what would you like to what would you like to talk about?
So, my uh, one of my good friends and business partner who I'm kind of doing all of this virtual art with and everything. Um, he's been kind of toying and talking about doing a sort of blockchain, or I've been talking about something he's been reading about, a blockchain based around growing plants. So it's not a Bitcoin type thing. I was reading up on it during the interview, and I'd be happy to like forward the links. I'm kind of the skeptical voice in our discussions about blockchain, cryptocurrency, NFT type stuff, and getting that involved in some of the art projects that we're working on. But I try to keep an open mind about it, but um, it still seems a bit far fetched to try to utilize those tools to do something like sustainably positive in the world right now.
Why do they need? Why does your friend need to do this on the blockchain? What's the blockchain angle here?
Like so the idea that this other guy that he's been referencing puts forth is basically like rather than doing tokens based off of the computers crunching numbers and like mining a token, having tokens based off of actual like plants. And that way, farmers and community gardeners and people who are growing like certain types of plants that can produce like value and good for people. Um, Tokens are based off of that, and so you can buy and invest in these tokens in a way that directly supports like growers in your community and that sort of thing.
Why not just literally give your money to the growers in the community instead of buying into this speculative asset?
Yeah, that's kind of where my head is at on it, to
Right, like
be honest.
all these ideas based around this stuff. It's all listen. I hate to say this. I'm sure even if your friend is not, even if he or she means or they mean well. Um, I mean, everything is a money making scheme for the person or people behind it. I mean, I don't understand. Like, just create a product or a service, and like say what you will about like whatever the current, like, let's even use tech, because people like to, because this is where the blockchain and crypto world is in. Like, let's take tech. Let's just bring up a random service here. Like, I'm trying to think. I don't want to use Netflix because they're pushing movies or something. Let's use like an RSS subscription service. Like, let's say Feedly. Say what you want, but people pay Feedly money for a subscription to a digital service that helps them track the articles in their favorite outlets, so they can it's just a way to read in an easy manner and see articles come in as they come in, and make sure that articles they want to read don't get lost. They can like mark it to read it later. That's a service people pay for. I pay, and this is not a service I pay for. I'm just using them as an example. They came to my head. So let's say I do pay for it though. I pay Feedly. Feedly takes my money, provide me with a service that I use, and their money goes into paying their employees. Obviously, the owners, the founders, or the CEOs, the executives take money, and money goes also into running the servers where the service I use lives on. To me, that seems like an even exchange. Everyone's getting something out of it, right? I mean, we can argue about whether Feedly pays their workers correctly, or, again, I'm just using them as the example. That's another thing. But in terms of the transaction, everyone walks home happy, right? I mean, if Feedly closed the next month and told their subscribers we're closing, you don't lose any money. You paid for the service for the previous month. You got it. And we could talk about if, like, obviously, if they charged you and then closed the day after they charged you, there's an issue there. But again, this is something separate. You pay for the service, you get it. And if they run away after the contract is over, no loss, no foul, right? What do you get when you pay for one of these tokens? You get this speculative asset that gives you nothing. No product, no service. Your money is gone the second you give it to whoever you're giving it to, all with the hope that somewhere down the line it is worth more than what you paid for it. If they up and leave you the month after you paid for it, and you didn't sell before that, and most likely you did not, because the whole point is to hold on to this stuff, hoard it until it is worth more, you lose everything and gained nothing. It is purely a money-making gain with no exchange of product or service. And I use Feedly because people seem to think like, oh, if you're anti this stuff, you just don't understand digital products. No, I get digital products. Most digital products, though, prior to crypto and NFTs, you did get something, though. Like, if I paid, and this is something I have paid for, if I paid for like an After Effects template, I got a file that I can use and create stuff with. There is something tangible there, even though it is a digital product. There is nothing to, even with NFTs, there's nothing tangible there, because listen, I have no problem with people buying digital artwork, but you're not buying digital artwork with the NFT. You're buying the string of codes attached to the string of characters attached to it. You're buying the receipt. You don't actually own the rights to that art. If I go to an artist and say, "Oh, I really like that artwork. I want to buy it from you," because I want to use it for I think it would be a great cover art for an episode of my podcast, or a great cover art for like my YouTube channel. I want to buy it from you so I could use it for that. And obviously I buy it out. I now own that artwork. That's not what happens with NFTs. You don't even get to like use the artist like you don't even own the copyright to it. You just own that string of text that says you paid to own it without actually owning the copyright for it. Is this good for artists? Now, that's something that's been argued to me many times. And to that, I say, it possibly could be. If you're an artist, apparently, you can make a good amount of money through NFTs if you get popular enough, because you make a commission, like a royalty, every time that artwork, the NFT of that artwork would sell, because the blockchain tracks that. That's certainly interesting. But then I bring you the most popular NFT project, the Bored Ape Yacht Club, the ones that have made hundreds of millions of dollars and are now getting all these brand deals. If you look into their history, it's 4 guys who paid illustrators a flat fee for these 10,000 ape images, and that's it. Those artists don't see any more money. They paid the Bored Ape Yacht Club isn't an artist project. It is a brand project. It's like Nike or something like that. And those are the guys who are making the royalty and the commission, a bunch of branding guys. The actual artists who drew that stuff aren't seeing anything more, as far as I know, because they got paid a flat fee to basically provide those people, those 4 guys, the artwork. So, that's basically what's going to happen. Yes, sure, some struggling artists will hit it big with NFTs, deservingly, because they're talented artists. But just like with crypto, there'll be the few lucky ones, and most of the people making out like bandits are going to be, rich techie assholes. With NFTs, it seems like it's going to be mostly like brand experts. These guys have already signed a deal with Warner Brothers or Universal, I forgot which, to create a Bored Ape Yacht Club band. That's ridiculous. This is back when I was really in bands and was dreaming of having a music career back in the day. You looked at bands created by a label as pure, it's like fakes, sellouts. That's not a band. The band's gotta get together and pay their dues and work in small clubs and get signed through touring or having a popular song get out there online or through the scene, whatever scene that might be. The idea that you would be a record label created band, that's boy band shit. That's pop record label created bullshit. That's the Sex Pistols.
Right. Yeah.
Look at Johnny Rotten selling himself out for butter commercials and shit and supporting Donald Trump. So that's what it's going to be. You're going to get a few legit people who do make money. But they're going to be they're not going to be the regular people who make out here. The same old people are going to be the ones who get rich from this stuff. And listen, it is what it is. Obviously, there are many terrible things where rich people get rich off of. Why are you focusing on crypto, Matt? Well, because those other schemes are pretty flat out what they are. Most people aren't venture capitalists. Most people are not day traders or run hedge funds. They see that stuff and they know, oh, that's not something I should dabble with because I would lose. crypto is presenting itself to normal people as something where all you got to do is put your money in and you'll be a winner too. They're duping people. They're going to scam people. It's impossible for everyone to walk away a winner. And the people who are going to walk away as a winner are going to be the people with the connections, the insider information, because this shit is not regulated. So it's, and the inside information shit goes on in regulated markets too, like the stock market. So like imagine how rampant and over the top it is in crypto. So like you are not going to get rich from this stuff. Like, listen, when I say you, maybe you, the individual, will. Maybe you rolled the dice and got lucky. I'm not saying that's not possible, but I'm saying for the vast majority, you're not. So if you got the extra money to roll the dice, I mean, I'm not going to stop you. Everyone's got to make money. I mean, people would bring up other people would bring up the environmental stuff, issues with crypto, and I think that's very fair.
Yeah.
But listen, I'm also not going to.
That's one of the things that this guy who's talking about, like the plant, basing these tokens off of growing plants and doing it in ways that encourages, more local biodiversity and moving away from like, monoculture type farming and things like that. And so like I see the intent in all of it as being, a fairly agreeable one that tries to move away from some of the issue. And it does talk about being, more regulated and like having some like types of censorship with the types of tokens and things like that. And it's all very interesting, but just like with other like cryptocurrency stuff, I get these real like MLM vibes off of it all.
Oh, it's 100% that. And people will bring up, the technology behind it. Listen, if the technology behind it was so great, why is it all being used for these financial scams and schemes and marketing ploys and other, financial asset, investing bullshit? Where are perhaps there are some out there, but they're not the ones making the headway here. And who knows? Listen, I'm not even someone, I think the people who are out there saying like, and people probably think I do this you can look through my history. I have never once done this. I do not speculate on when this bubble is going to burst. I do not speculate on when prices go up and down. I have no clue. Nobody does. And I'm not going to pretend to be some Nostradamus or soothsayer here and pretend I foretold and can tell the future. Listen, stupid, terrible, horrible, ridiculous shit gets popular and blows up all the time. You just can't tell.
Yeah.
How popular it is and how much it's spreading has nothing to do with the utility and has nothing to do with the legitimacy of it. My argument, my critiques have nothing to do with how popular or successful crypto and NFTs and the blockchain get. If anything, my critiques should mean more the more popular it gets, because my critiques exist no matter what. And if it does become something more popular and more popular, then that means that all those negative things I bring up, all those negative aspects of it, are going to affect and hurt even more and more and more people. So if anything, people who are bullish on this stuff should be listening to the critics and saying, what the fuck? Like, let me, like, first of all, they don't even do that. Right away, it's, I'm uneducated. I haven't done my own research. And I've pointed out many times, it's the same shit that, QAnon believers and anti-vaxxers say. It's like conspiracy bullshit 101 to just pretend that anyone who doesn't believe and trust in what you're saying is just not well educated enough to discuss it. I can tell you right now that my critique of this stuff did not come from me knowing nothing about it. My critique of this stuff actually came from me looking into this shit. I mean, if you ask me, not looking into it, what do you see? Crypto millionaire here. Guy put in $10 is now a millionaire. Guy got his family together and asked them all to invest a few $1,000s. Now they're all buying homes. That's what they would see. So doing no research, that's the bullshit you see. To see that stuff and say something is amiss here and then to have actual critiques of it, that shows that I did my research. Like, it would be too easy for me to just go in there, do nothing, and walk out saying, damn, I got to throw my money into this crypto shit. I could be rich.
For sure. For sure. And I mean, like, my business partner, he's not like, you know, he's definitely not in the mindset of like, hey, maybe this is how we can like really invest our time and resources, but just a kind of like we've been starving artists for a while and just like trying to keep our minds and options open for ways that we can sustain ourselves trying to make the art that we want to make and that sort of thing. But you know, I definitely have other friends that are far less skeptical of the whole cryptocurrency NFT stuff than my business partners. So like I I feel good about talking them down from getting too invested in that kind of stuff, and just everybody I do know, I'm just like that has invested in cryptocurrencies. I'm like, just be ready to like, either pull that money or like lose it. Like
Right.
that's your Atlantic City money. Like that's your
Right.
that's
Listen,
you're going to Shreveport for the weekend.
I am anti giving financial advice. I can't. I can't. I could never do that. I don't understand people who do that. Actually, I think that is easily one of the most gross things you can do. I mean, I'm sure there are perhaps a handful of experts out there who get it right most of the time. Perhaps I don't know that world honestly, in terms of like stock market advice and things like that. But I think people who tell you to do this are put your money into this are gross. And at the same aspect, I could never tell you not to do something because
Right.
I think, and then there'll be a lot of people who will tell you, like I said, who will bring up the environmental stuff and say if you get involved, you're horrible for. Listen, do I think that? Yes, I mean maybe not horrible, but yeah. But I wouldn't tell you not to because listen, people do all sorts of things to make money. There are many people, good people, who have jobs where they harm the environment as well, and they're stuck doing it, providing their labor to an organization or a company because that's what they got. That's how they provide for their family. I get it. Listen, I can't do that. All I want to do is let those people know exactly what they're getting into. It is not what they're selling it to you as. It is gambling. It is a casino. It is a lottery ticket. You could win. You very likely will lose. With that information, feel free to do what you want with your money, but just know that. Don't listen to these people who are selfishly telling you to put your money into something just so you can pump up their own asset holdings so they can get rich off of your losses. That's my point.
Right. Yep. Well, thank you for taking my call, Matt. It was really good to hear you go off on all that.
I listen, I'm actually, it's 100% happening at this point. I guess I'll tell you guys first. I'm going to be doing a Web3/crypto/NFT show. I've already started putting everything together. It will be part of this whole world, but that I'm creating here in terms of the live streams and the podcasts. But it's separate from Doomed. It will not be on Thursdays. Probably the first few episodes I'll air just so I can kick some of you guys over to the second show, the second podcast, and to subscribe to it. But it's coming. It's 100% happening. I've already landed on a name. I've purchased the domain name. It's happening. I'm not gonna tell you guys exactly what it is yet, but it's coming. Give me a few weeks and you'll know a lot more.
Well, I'm grateful for the anticipation.
All right. Thank you as always for calling in, Tony.
You have a good night, mate.
Take care. All right, got another call right off the bat. Here we go. Let's take this call. Hello, what's your name? Where you calling from?
Hey, Matt, this is Carl from Minnesota.
Hey, Carl from Minnesota. What would you like to talk about today?
I want to talk to you about Bitcoin, not
Whoa.
crypto.
Okay, all right. And for people who don't know, there is a difference. Bitcoin is cryptocurrency, but it is a very specific one that does not have the same, dealings as all of the others. Every one of them is unique in their own way in some aspects.
Very true, very true. People consider Bitcoin the first cryptocurrency.
It
It
is,
sort
yeah.
of is. Before that, the real precursor to that was Bitgold. Um, but there were some problems with that. Bitcoin was really the amalgamation of pretty much four key ideas into a protocol that um, solved the problems with, you know, decentralization, um, and consensus, and then put in some interesting um, things like coin issuance and mining that really made it an actual effective digital currency.
Right. So, what would you like to talk about concerning Bitcoin specifically?
Um, well, I just harp on the need to separate Bitcoin from cryptocurrencies in general. It's sort of like, um, anytime you have a product or whatever, you're trying to solve a problem. If you're not solving a problem, what's it really good for? And I
Right.
feel like every other cryptocurrency after Bitcoin is, well, there's a solution to this. Why are we doing another one that's not really doing anything else? Maybe it's
Okay, so you are. I
uh,
just want to make it clear. You are pro. You are for Bitcoin. You are an advocate.
yeah, yep,
Okay. All right. Cool. Are you the person who messaged me earlier in the day to say you wanted to call in?
yeah. That's right. I just shot you an email. Yep,
Okay, perfect. I just wanted to make sure that I was hoping that person called in, so it's good to know that you
yeah,
did. Um, here's my thing. Yes, Bitcoin is different from some of the others. I don't see the problem it solves either. I'm not saying the problems aren't there. I'm saying Bitcoin does not solve them. Why don't you try to sell me on it though first before we and then I'll rebut what your points are.
okay. Well, I mean, there's several, and that's one of the interesting things about Bitcoin is it can sort of be something different depending. There use different use cases for it.
So
So
maybe we should
if
start with that though. Are you someone who just views Bitcoin as a an investment like an asset or like a speculative asset, or do you view Bitcoin as a futuristic technology, the money of the future? One day it'll take over the U.S. dollar, and we'll all be using Bitcoin.
for me personally, my situation, it is an asset. It's a store of value. It is not a currency for me.
Okay, all right. I think that is a very important point to make because I think we can have a uh, discussion that's based in reality. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Well,
go ahead. Why don't you make the point you want to make now that I know that.
sure. Well, and I think that's what some of the people, oversell about Bitcoin is that it is a currency. Well, okay, for a currency, it needs to be, a unit of account. That's what the dollar is good for, right? It needs to be a store value, despite Bitcoin's volatility. If your time preference is low enough, it's a pretty good store of value. Um, if you're using it as a currency, that's a little bit tougher because it is volatile. I mean, we're only 9, 10 years into this experiment. It's not going to go from, you know, extremely volatile to stable in that time period. That's just unrealistic. That's ludicrous.
I mean,
But
we are again. I think you mentioned like over 10 years into this now. I mean, the fact that it's been fluctuating so much throughout its decade plus history. I mean, when is this magical time come when finally everything is, stabilized?
Well, I mean that I can't even tell you. That's the interesting part because it's an experiment. Like I'll be the first to tell you, I could be wrong. This could all go up in flames, but it looks the patterns keep repeating, and it seems like it's it's becoming a better store value. More people are using it, and the tools being built on top are getting better and better, which is the Bitcoin as a base layer is incredible. That was the big thing. Now it's layer two, it's Lightning. It's, Bitcoin, you have compared to FedWire, your settlement time has dropped to pretty much zero. It's still, 10 minutes to an hour to whatever based on the fee you're willing to pay, which is way faster than FedWire.
I can Venmo, Cash App, whatever someone right now, zero fees, immediately, right away. It'll go right into their Venmo, Cash App account, no problem.
Right, but that's crediting. That is not final settlement. That's the big thing.
Isn't that good though? Isn't it good that that happens? Because, for example, I get scammed, and on Bitcoin, that's it. Money gone, no protection, no reversal. On any of those platforms I just mentioned to you, there's a process where I can dispute it, and maybe not 100% of the time, but more often than not, it will be ruled in your favor, and you will get your money back.
Yeah, that's a very good point. For people who want that extra layer of security, that is 100% a benefit. But if you, for one thing, a Bitcoin, if you're self-custodying your keys, you're not leaving them on like Coinbase or something, that you're open to all those things, or it's pretty much the same way as a bank account. If something happens accidentally, they'll reimburse you for it. There's sort of those protections built into having them on a Coinbase account. But you don't own those Bitcoin. That's an IOU. It's the same way your dollars in a bank account. If something happens to your bank account, they'll reimburse you,
Right.
or your credit card or something. But if you're custodying your Bitcoin yourself on your own self-hosted wallet, you have the keys to control them. So yeah, it's a trade-off, responsibility versus convenience. And so that's what comes down to each person. Personally, me, I'm taking the self-custody and being reliant on myself. I'm not going to worry about, a bank or a Coinbase owing me something. I'm going to say I'm competent enough to take control of it and say, no, this is my money and I can do whatever with I please.
Right. Well, but is it your money though? I mean, you say you have these Bitcoins, but what do you do with them? For example, you say you take custody of these. What do you do with these Bitcoins you have custody over?
What do you mean?
Like, what are you doing with them? Like, they're just sitting on your, you're just holding them. You don't use them for anything.
Well, that's the thing. Like you could say I have a savings account and a checking account in Bitcoin. I have most of my keys stored in a cold wallet, which is something not connected to the internet, or I have something in my phone, a wallet I have a Lightning wallet and a Bitcoin wallet, which I can use to spend between friends Bitcoin. I'll tip people in Bitcoin. Like that's the sort of part I'm doing to spread it.
How often do you really do that though?
I mean, for Bitcoin events, I spend Bitcoin. You get discounts. You can stream sats to people with Lightning, which is actually really cool. It's a tipping service.
Isn't I don't want to get off topic here, but
Sure.
from my I knew more about Lightning a few months ago, earlier this year, when I was looking a lot more into the El Salvador stuff. But I've been doing so much, I might not be my memory on it might not be as sharp as it was. Isn't that not happening on the blockchain? Like, doesn't that those Bitcoin just move around within Lightning?
Yeah, so it's a layer two. So there's no final settlement in a Lightning channel until it's closed out. So the thing is,
Oh wait, you know what I'm
the way
thinking
it
of?
works
You know what
is
I'm thinking of? I'm sorry. I'm thinking of that app that they use in El Salvador, I think. Where the Bitcoin is just being is owned by that
yep.
is held by. Is that what Lightning is? Is that am I correct? Hello?
Sorry, one sec.
Oh no, no problem. Are you looking it up? Because I could. This specific thing.
No, I was just fixing a computer issue. Sorry, can you? So Lightning is sort of just a term. It's just a broad term for a second level layer built on top of the Bitcoin network.
Okay, so let's not
So
go
like,
into this right now because I might have confused it with something else. So let me not go down that route. So let's
are you thinking of Strike?
yes, thank you. That's what I'm thinking of.
Yes.
Okay. So let's discuss what you were saying about using it at Bitcoin events. Outside of Bitcoin events, what are you using your Bitcoin for there? Do you just to me, like using it within its own little world? That I mean, obviously. But like, if you're going to say that there is a store of value there, what is that value though outside of Bitcoin? You ostensibly have to trade that in for real money to find that value to get to receive that value. No.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I'm personally of the view that I'll hold long enough that I won't need to trade it in for anything. That I'll enough people will accept Bitcoin, and that at that point it'll be a currency not just for people who are using it day to day. It'll be a currency for me.
Right. Right. So you're trying to figure out what exactly. So you're trying to you're selling me on Bitcoin, because I don't think we're actually having a like a discussion right now. I think we're just trying to lay out what your thoughts are on this, and I want to make sure I got this right. So you're saying that um, Bitcoin is good because you're able to have complete ownership over your money and you're willing to trade in all the negatives for what you view as that being a greater positive.
Um, yeah, well, yeah, I guess that's one reason I hold Bitcoin is that it's an appreciating store of value. It's an appreciating asset that can't be inflated away. That's one thing. You know, I've done a decent job to make sure I get at least a 5% pay raise every year just to counteract what I'm losing to inflation.
What
And
what
on top of that,
what
whatever I put in
happens
my savings account.
what happens when all those Bitcoin are minted are mined though? Won't that affect exactly what you're saying in terms of uh you know the value of it and how that always remains a constant in your view?
Well, I mean, the issuance is decreasing. It's right now it's 6.5 Bitcoin every block. In another 2 years, it's going to be, 3.25. It's the issuance is going down. So by the time 20 in the year 2140, when the final uh, Bitcoin has been mined from a block, the demand is going to be, at least what I'm thinking, the demand is going to be exponentially higher, and there's only going to be 21 million ever. That's more than we can say for any other currency.
Right, but that's a bad thing. Like that's a bad thing. Um, when you have just 21 million of something, and you expect the whole world to get in on it, um, it just won't. It just won't work that way. Like the reason why the U.S. government prints money is to create to help spur the economy, because with less of it out there, less is being used. I mean, if your argument is that that's a good thing, I mean, yeah, I guess for the early investors, perhaps if it doesn't crash, but I mean, it's not gonna. I don't see how that everyone, because look what you're doing. You're saying you're holding it, right? That's the main purpose. Other than getting a discount at a Bitcoin event, you're just holding it. So where is what's being created here? There's no economic value in just holding something that you claim to be a valuable commodity here. I mean, I don't see how this
Oh,
works.
I'm preserving the money I've earned. I'm selling U.S. dollars and buying a different currency, buying a different store of value, and my um my time, the time I traded for that labor, is becoming more valuable.
What do you
How
mean what
how
time
how's
you what do you mean what time you traded for your labor?
the,
Like
the time I traded for U.S. dollars by working,
okay.
I traded those dollars that I earned for Bitcoin,
Okay.
and the thing is when the inflation we're experiencing is devaluing the work. So why would I not want to preserve my work?
I mean, that's not really what's happening. I mean, I don't know why. Like, for example, you're saying this too. Why do crypto people have this obsession with inflation? And usually they mention like hyperinflation when it's just not the. I mean, it's not the case. We're experiencing a temporary inflation due to what's happened over the past 2 years regarding COVID and labor shutting down for months, and all the after effects, the domino effect of that happening. I mean, this is not some like end of the world economy forever changing scenario. I mean, this has happened before, and as everything evens back out, whatever tiny inflation we're seeing right now will also even out.
Tiny inflation. I mean, by some estimates, it's 5%, 6%. Some it's 2.9. Like whatever tiny percent, it's not nothing.
I mean, when we talk about inflation, though, the idea is that, oh, I went to the gas station or I went to buy my groceries. They were up a quarter, 50 cents, 75 cents, a dollar. I mean, working people have been dealing with high prices, rising costs for as long as I can remember, with rents and student loans and all sorts of other things going up astronomically. Yet the fixation is on this hyperinflation it just doesn't make any sense to me. Like the idea that like this is the problem here, and this is what people are going to drive people to Bitcoin or other crypto. And again, I know you don't want to talk about other crypto. I don't see it being that no one ran to crypto 5 years ago when their rent was increasing $200, $300, $400, $500, and I could go down the line each year before that and each year after that. I just don't see. I don't see how that helps you. I mean, you're saying that because you invest in Bitcoin, your dollar, which would remain a dollar, becomes more because Bitcoin goes up. But you're hedging that Bitcoin will consistently go up. What happens if your Bitcoin goes like? What if you put a dollar into Bitcoin right now, and tomorrow, that Bitcoin's back down to 30,000 or something like that? I mean, that's hyperinflation to me. Your dollar just cut in half. Let's go more than a dollar. What if you put $500 into Bitcoin right now and it crashed down to 30 again? Your 500 became 250. I mean, to me, that's much more than the 6% inflation. I mean, I get that the luck has gone in your favor thus far, but I mean, you seem like you're going to be in this for the long run. Are you really willing to, uh, think you could keep winning the lottery that many times?
Well, yeah, a hedge because a hedge against inflation is just one part of my or its draw for me.
All right. So what's another? I don't want to stick too long on a point where I think we're not, we're not getting anywhere with. So let's go to the next point you said you had, so we can continue discussing your next
Um,
your next uh, reason why you like Bitcoin.
well, I guess Bitcoin over other cryptocurrencies. I mean, Bitcoin for a number of reasons: censorship resistance. Um, you can actually like own keep your keys to yourself, not have to trust a third party to do it. You can monitor your transactions. You can pay the fees you like, and um, for another thing, I think it's becoming more popular that countries like El Salvador, for all the grief they've got, it's becoming mainstream and helping people, people who are unbanked take a little bit more control over their finance.
I mean, it's El Salvador is a completely unproven example. In fact, they were there. You mentioned it yourself. There were many issues with it. I don't think the people who hit the streets protesting it are happy with the situation there. I mean, the country basically forced it upon its people. If the whole idea is that Bitcoin equals freedom, El Salvador said you are not free to to not accept it. You must accept Bitcoin, which, I mean, that's not really taking over your finances, your financial freedom, if you are being forced to deal in this commodity that you don't want to have any part in.
Oh, I completely agree, but there are clear ways around that, and that is what actually really nothing you did, but Matt Leck and David Griscom actually they covered the story, and they just awful reporting, if you ask me, because they're reading these articles written by people who I know it's a meme, but didn't know what they were talking about. Because yes, you're legally required to accept Bitcoin, but through an app like Strike, you can make a Bitcoin payment and receive it in dollars. You can make a Bitcoin payment and receive it in euros. You can make a Bitcoin payment and receive it in Bitcoin. There are all these things that people aren't telling you.
There are fees involved in that, though, correct?
Lightning is free and instant, or Strike is free and instant.
No, but there are fees in the exchange, correct?
That's true, but that's if you're using layer one. If you're using the Lightning layer, if you're using through the Strike app, they're eating fees for you. Jack Mallers has said this over and over and over.
But that's just temporary, because didn't El Salvador create an entire fund to cover fees
through their own government wallet?
Right. That's not like in perpetual.
And I agree, the government wallet shit. People shouldn't use it. They should get their $30 in free Bitcoin, take it off it, and use their own wallet.
And to do that, there is a fee to transfer it there, correct?
A one-time fee. That's it. You get your $30 and you're out.
Right. I mean,
of free. So you escaped with $29.75 for free, for nothing.
Hey, if the whole idea is that this money is helping people who are so impoverished that they can't have a bank account, I mean, that's a legitimate issue, I'm sure. I mean, that's not nothing to them. I mean, it's the whole idea behind this to promote this crypto. So I mean, it's not like they're just getting free money; they're being forced to take part in this whole system that they just clearly don't have any interest in using.
They're forced if they have the technological means. If they don't, then they don't have to.
I mean, you run a business; you're forced to accept crypto in Bitcoin in El Salvador. I think that is. I mean, that's the opposite of what I'm being told that this is all about.
But I just told you, though, you can accept a Bitcoin payment and it's transferred instantly for free to dollars to you. You don't have to deal with the Bitcoin. if you don't want to.
How do you get that money? So there's zero fees in accepting Bitcoin, transferring that Bitcoin to US dollars, and then getting that money to your bank account or in your hand.
Through the Strike app, there are zero fees.
All right, but then if they need to get the money, they have to go through a Bitcoin ATM. Isn't that true?
Or one of the 1,000 locations in El Salvador that they have these points set up where you can walk out with physical dollars.
And for absolutely no cost.
For the same cost as an on-chain transaction. So, pennies on a dollar, if not less.
I mean, I don't know what the exact fees are, so I don't know exactly involved with El Salvador. I haven't done an episode on it yet. But I mean, it just doesn't. I think El Salvador is a terrible scenario, honestly. If you are a crypto person or a Bitcoin person who promotes the idea that this is something that should not be, the whole point is free from, government run money, right? And here's the government of El Salvador telling you this is Bitcoin. You have to accept it regardless of how low you claim the fees are. I just don't think that fits in with the whole narrative of why this is so different. To me, it looks like just an extra unnecessary step. There's no reason why they can't just continue using the currency they were using, the US dollar, in El Salvador, other than that the president of El Salvador has some sort of a scheme in mind here where it seems like he's been investing a lot in Bitcoin, and I'm sure he'll make out with some money. I'm sure. I mean, I'm positive of it.
Yeah, well, you know what? For one thing, I think that they're at a disadvantage because they don't see the positive effects that the U.S. Increasing monetary issuance, because they're a foreign country. Why would they? They don't get to experience the benefits that we do living in the United States as a small business or a bank or whatever. So that's one thing. That's I think a good reason they adopted Bitcoin is to hedge against overinflation, what we're experiencing. But I'll say this, and I've taken up a ton of your time and appreciate it, but I think the point about Bitcoin increasing freedom and then being mandated as legal tender, I agree with you. I think that's a little bit authoritarian. I think, for whatever good intentions there were, and there are a lot of people in the Bitcoin community that are kind of split on this. I don't think it was, a great idea for people who didn't want to make a massive change in their business or whatever. I think there are good things that will come out of it for sure. I think the tools need to be better built. I think their government was a little bit incompetent when building their app, but we'll see. It's an experiment. We'll see. Hopefully El Salvador comes out on top, but we'll see.
Right. See, to me, the problem with that experiment, though, is that we're experimenting with people's lives. I mean, this isn't like you are consenting from our conversation fully in putting your money in Bitcoin, and you seem to fully understand the issues that could come up and the negatives as well as the positives, and you are making that choice. That's an experiment you are willingly taking part in and consenting to. People in El Salvador are dealing in an experiment that is really, I think, dangerous to do at that level. And I think like I said earlier, I don't claim to know what's going to happen. My critiques of the whole industry, crypto as a whole, they work regardless of how popular crypto is. And I think people get into all sorts of things, and things become popular even when they're, regardless of whatever the negatives are to them. So I don't make any proclamations of what's going to happen in the future. But I think what could happen is a dangerous thing to experiment with at that level.
Yeah, I mean that's a good point. I would argue that the amount of money they're losing to fees for remittances, I think it's a risk, but I think to help their government and overall the health of their economy, I think they had to do something.
Well, I guess we'll just have to see what happens there. I'm sure, you know, I think regardless of what happens there, Bitcoin, crypto people as a whole will try to spin it in some way. I'm sure, obviously. But talking with you, I mean, I don't think you're the same as some of the people who I have a real problem with. You seem to know what Bitcoin is and not try to pretend it's something else. That's the people I have a real problem with. That's the what most of my main critiques focus on. The idea that all this stuff is solving is solving every issue known to man. I don't agree with you on everything, but you're not the type of person that I have the major bone to pick with in this crypto world. Thanks for calling in, though. Feel free to do it anytime if you want to have a different discussion on the topic or any other topic.
Yeah, we'll do. Thanks, Matt. Take care.
Bye. All right, folks. I mean, I thought that was an interesting conversation. It's interesting to talk with someone who it's obviously not as fun or exciting, but he is the exact person I was talking about earlier in some aspects. I think he's buying into a lot of the libertarian framing of it, obviously, but he's someone who knows that it's basically a way for him to invest and make money. And he doesn't pretend he's going to. The El Salvador stuff was somewhat concerning, but I knew a lot more about the El Salvador thing. It's probably been like almost 6 months ago. But I haven't been on top of it lately, so I couldn't speak to what's currently going on there. Hey, you were on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, it's Kowalski.
Hey, Kowalski. Oh, you're on video. I can see you. How you doing?
Oh, not too bad. I actually just got off work about 15 minutes ago.
You're cool with me pulling you up on the video feed, right?
Yeah, I don't mind.
All right, cool. Look at that. Is that a Kowalski shirt behind you?
Yes, it is. This is the backside of the shirt. Kowalski Family Farms, Inc. I think that's for tax purposes, so.
All right. What would you like to talk about?
I was actually going to give you a movie recommendation, but just on your two previous callers, it was kind of making me think. So I've always been skeptical of Bitcoin just because it's basically the tulip bubble. I mean, functionally, it's just a stock at this point on an asset. So like the only asset that will truly hold its value over time is probably land. I mean, at the end of the day, land is a hard asset that it's literally right there, and it's always going to be more valuable with more people. But Bitcoin could die tomorrow.
Right.
Like,
I do think there. Sorry to cut you off, but I do think there has to be, in my opinion, some sort of reckoning in the real estate industry at some point. I mean, I don't see how this sustains where it just keeps growing in value. I mean,
no. A collapse is definitely coming. Like in the ag field, this happens like every 15, 20 years. The price will go up by like 20% in like a 5-year jaunt, and then it's going to collapse really hard, and then it'll slowly grow again. But historically, it grows at about 10%.
Right. I mean,
but there's a lot of fluctuation in the meantime.
I feel like the collapse that's coming, I don't know if it's the next one or whatever down the line, I feel like it's got to be huge, though. Like, I don't see it, at least from what I see, where I live in New York. Obviously, my situation when it comes to real estate is probably different from the rest of the country. But
Not anymore, actually. The real estate pretty much is uniform across the country right now because the big buyers into ag real estate are corporations like who literally work on like stock exchanges. I think right now health insurance companies and insurance companies, just like in general, are one of the biggest land buyers right now. That and the tech guys are starting to get into it too,
right,
just because land is like a for sure like guarantee on your investment because like in the long run, even through the depression, war, everything, it goes up by like 10%, so it barely beats inflation.
right. What I'm saying is like, from what I don't know any people in my generation who owns. Um, Everyone who I know who owns property is of the baby boomer generation. I could think of a few Gen Xers who pretty much, this is all anecdotal, obviously, my own personal experience, but I'm sure this reverberates with a lot of people, at least again, if you're living in a major city. When though that generation dies out, you're basically going to be seeing the funneling of this property to their heirs. And I mean, I don't see how it sustains because you're going to have basically it going to fewer and fewer people who are going to hoard all these places. And I mean, renting is just going to be everything. And I don't see how we live in a world, at least country, where the renter class out again in New York, obviously, probably most people that I know of rent, but I don't see how we expect a generation of millennials and Gen Zers to hit 70, 80 years old and be paying their rent on their Social Security, is what I'm saying. Like, we're going to have a real problem, I think, if there's not some huge reckoning at some point with that evens this out, because it's going to be bad, I think.
I actually think it's a lot worse than what you were describing, but yeah,
No, what?
basically. Um,
What do you think?
well, the big issue is that a lot of the boomers right now, every one of them did a lot of refinancing. Like businesses did it, real estate people do it. So a lot of properties are going to be pretty leveraged once a lot of these boomers die. So when you inherit it, you will also inherit the debt along with it, which will also exacerbate any type of like rental fees that these folks would have if they, just a lot of these properties will not be obtainable for a lot of people to inherit because the liability on them will be so high. So you will sell them. The problem is that people with money are going to be companies that are going to use the properties as rental properties. And because there's going to be a lot of leverage on them already, the value of the property is going to be much higher. So the rent's going to be a lot higher. It's going to be a huge, huge problem that'll probably trigger some sort of social backlash.
Right. Well, I
So,
think we were
yeah.
both right there with the doom and gloom. I think you just had more details.
But the social backlash will ultimately lead to something good. Either
I don't know,
the rich.
man. I don't know. I'm becoming I'm becoming a real doomer there too. I mean, I think we're just too complacent in general. I don't know if that social backlash will come. I think there's just too much distraction. They have everyone at a point where they're comfortable enough, and and even if they're not, rocking that boat will cause greater discomfort than what they have now, and there's just way too many people who don't want to do that. I mean, I'm not on board with that, obviously, but I mean, maybe I've been disheartened because I thought this was all going down 10 years ago when I was down at Occupy Wall Street. But, I don't know, man. I don't know.
Well, if I could give you any advice, maybe buy land in the upper Great Plains, since with the looming trends of climate change, the area should have a very decent climate and still get adequate rainfall. So, you know, I guess my forefathers picked a good spot to, I guess, colonize
Yeah,
with
but
all the bloodshed that was involved with.
if all that backlash, if that social outlash happens that you say, You don't think they're going to come for you landowners most safe from climate change catastrophe and take it back from you?
I will be a poor farmer. I don't think I'm going to be the enemy on this one. We'll probably be the ones leading the charge towards the gated communities and the large
Oh,
cities.
I don't
So,
mean you specifically. I'm saying you in the general sense of the people who own the property in the area you're talking about.
um, for the most part, farming is in many ways a lot like renting because so like you're not making a fortune farming anymore. Farmers are asset rich, they're not cash rich. So like you might have a decent amount of assets, but like you can't really sell them and you can't borrow against them because if you do, you'll basically go broke.
Have you
Like
minted?
your goal is
Have you
to
minted
eventually pass it on.
have you minted your assets on the blockchain?
God, no. Like, I'm sorry, we developed a Federal Reserve and all of this other mechanisms. Like, I don't know what these guys are expecting to do in the long run. Because, I mean, if you really think about it, what gives the US dollar like power and legitimacy? It's the fact that the government requests it in,
That's how you pay your taxes.
taxes.
Yeah.
So exactly. And oh, well, who says that the US government's, tax required currency, has value? Well, the fact that our military can control the supply chains, the fact that we have rules and laws that have to be followed. We literally have the force of, like millions of people behind it. So, what exactly is the security in Bitcoin? Not to mention, to the previous guy with the whole El Salvador, they basically traded their currency being pegged to the US dollar to being pegged to Bitcoin. Like it's literally the same concept. The only difference is that instead of dealing with, the US's currency, you're now dealing with someone's currency. We don't even know. And it's something that's hugely volatile. Like I don't even understand how you would even remotely believe that would be a safe thing for you if you were like the leader of a country.
Right. I mean,
that sounds insane.
I mean, speaking to the last caller, I mean, he obviously. This is the thing I wanted to bring up, but I got sidetracked by the El Salvador conversation. The people who just say throw it in Bitcoin and just watch it go up, like, do you realize how long you had to keep it in there in order to realize these maximum gains that they experienced that really did change their life? Like, they act like everyone had just these thousands of dollars sitting around to throw in and sit on for 10 years. Like, it's right off the get-go, just to be able to have gotten rich off of this, again, minus a few people. There are a few lucky people who got in super early when we're talking about like Bitcoin costing, change and maybe even dollars. But I mean, to be able to throw down, let's say $10,000 5 years ago and sit there and wait for it to have these large enough gains for it to be like life changing. I mean, you got to be coming from somewhere where you have some sort of wealth. The vast majority of people in this country do not have $10,000 they could sit on for 5 years. I mean, Bitcoiners always, or crypto people in general always say, oh, they see my old tweets when I was talking about Bitcoin like in like 2011, 2012. And they're like, oh man, I bet you really wish you put in money then or whatever. I mean, I still don't have the money, but I especially did not have the money then when I was just a few years out of college and working close to minimum wage. I mean, I didn't have any spare change to put anywhere. In fact, I still am, but I was even more debt than I was then than I am now. I didn't have any side, extra spending money. So no, even if I was super bullish on this stuff and thought Bitcoin was the future, I did not have the ability to invest back then. And I would say the same for the vast majority of people. So the idea that like there's a bunch of struggling working class people who are investing all this money in crypto and waiting around for their gains to make them millionaires, it's just bullshit. It's just bullshit, because the idea comes from a place where you have no idea what that average American experiences when it comes to their financial situation.
Yeah, it's almost like instead of trying to find ways to commodify new things, we should work on decommodifying the essentials of life and improving everyone's, well-being.
Right.
Or at least that's how I would look at it.
Right.
But I called in to give you a movie recommendation. So
right.
have you
I
seen...
forgot that's why you called it. See, this is why I need to have this separate crypto show, because otherwise this entire show becomes a crypto show, and I can't have that. I can't do that.
that we don't want to see you go insane in real time. So the movie I was going to recommend was Captive State. It was a 2019 film. I literally watched it today because we had some issues, so there was a lot of downtime. So I literally watched the whole thing on my phone. It's actually a lot better than I thought it was going to be. A buddy of mine recommended it to me, and basically the premise behind it is that in like the first 5 minutes of the movie, aliens invade, and instead of like a big battle or anything taking place, they basically give humanity an ultimatum: basically surrender and let them, be the new government. And basically everybody just gives up and they throw in the towel immediately, because if we didn't, it would be like total genocide. The first things they do is they disband the military, but they do not disband the police. And they do not get rid of the people in charge. Like, most politicians stay in place, and most of the people who are in charge of the major businesses stay in place. And the aliens basically just govern through them. And the whole plot of the movie is very like French resistance against, like an occupying force. But I just thought that the movie was done fairly well. There's not a lot of CGI. It's more like character driven. So that I thought was pretty good. I won't give away some of the spoilers in it, but I think it's kind of telling that for their version of an alien invasion movie, in order to oppress the humans to keep them, working towards whatever the nebulous goals of the aliens are, is to keep the police functioning basically as normal, and also the people in charge basically don't see their way of life suffer at all. It has a pretty similar feel to the like how the British ended up conquering the India, because they never had like the numbers to rule them directly, but they ruled them indirectly and used them to police themselves. I thought from like like looking at it from that kind of a social perspective, it was pretty interesting. So
Right. It sounds. What streaming service is it on?
I honestly don't know. My buddy sent it to me, and I would have to look that up. But I would imagine Amazon or something is probably what I looked it up on. I have a lot of the streaming apps just because I get bored a lot. So
I have to check it out. I see that John Goodman's in it, which is an automatic plus from me.
Yeah, I thought his role in it was good. And you know what? There was kind of a twist towards the end. Didn't really see it coming, but it honestly makes you feel really hopeful about the people. So.
Sounds good. Thanks for the recommend, Kowalski. Anything else, or shall I move on to the next?
Yeah, shout out to the John Deere strikers. I'm very glad that they held out. Solidarity with them, and to everyone else that wants to strike. This is the best time to do it. It seems like there's a lot of momentum right now. So.
Right. I've been saying, I don't know if I said it on this show, but I've been saying, at least with people in my life and people I talk to throughout the day, if we had to go through this COVID pandemic, extract the positives that came out of it, and I can't think of anything better than workers realizing what they're worth and realizing that they have the power, at least right now. And hopefully if they keep it up, it can continue to be this way and even continue to spread into different industries. We'll have to see.
Hope springs eternal.
Yep.
You have a good night.
I want to tell you that people are freaking out in the live stream chat because this is the first time they've ever seen you. and they are saying you do not look at all like they expected. I don't know what they expected to see, but I guess maybe your voice doesn't match your overall. I don't know. To me, I didn't really expect. I didn't have an expectation, so I'm not shocked or anything. And I think I have seen you before, but outside and the lighting wasn't so good. But now I'm getting the full Kowalski picture.
That's actually kind of funny. I didn't think about that. Yeah, that's aside from some of the videos on my YouTube channel, I guess, yeah, many people probably wouldn't have seen me.
So there you go, folks. If you watch Doomed over that dastardly, less, that show the Majority Report, maybe bigger, but it doesn't get the scoops like Matt Binder does. For example, you wanted to see what Kowalski looked like? Sam Cedar wouldn't show you, but Matt Binder would. There you go, folks.
Have a good night.
Take care, Kowalski. Always a pleasure when you call in.
Same.
All right. I see a few more people are calling in. I'll take calls, and if you want to talk crypto, which I'm assuming some people do, I will still do it. Probably can't go as long as we did with the previous guests, but I will still do a shorter discussion. Hey, what's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hi, Matt. This is Brad. How are you doing? We spoke one time before. I was in like a parking lot in Kentucky somewhere.
Oh, hey, Brad. I do remember. Cool if I bring your video feed in?
Yeah, that's fine.
Cool.
Yeah.
What would you like to talk about?
Kind of like it would be a dark conversation if you wanted to go into it, but some of my thoughts on what the probabilities are of how we're being conditioned for like NFT usage. And what like luxury brand companies are kind of like doing with like VR plans and metaverse plans and so forth.
Ooh, this is right up my alley. Normally I would say for something like this, call in at a later time when I could take you earlier, so we would have more time. But you really have me interested. So can you give us a shortened version?
Yeah, I can. Yeah,
and
I can
and if necessary, you could call in another time and we'll get more into it. But let's do it.
Yeah, I'll be quick. Nike is researching giving people NFTs along with their physical purchase of sneakers. And on Fox, like cable broadcast television at nighttime at 10 p.m. on the East Coast, there's a show called Alter Ego where people are going out in like an avatar from behind the scenes and doing like a dance and so forth. So I'm trying to kind of build a picture overall of how I think like digitization and e-skins and Fortnite and CS Skin Go and like gaming and everything kind of ties together. Because at the moment, a lot of people do games and they buy cosmetics and so forth, but you can't interoperate them. They don't go across platforms. And I think it's all, it is quite a design of trying to get people into the commodification, as Kowalski put it, of digital spaces and creating this like further scarcity, which I think is going to be deployed in like concert settings or like VR group settings or so forth, where like, a person might want to have a concert on a Thursday night or something. So you can have like a big digital space and you can have like 3,000 or 4,000 people show up, but they're going to want to rent like this weird like NFT costume thing to go to the show. So I've kind of like, I've stared deep into like blockchain and crypto, I guess, for like a half a year or so of just like deep underneath like the Bitcoin layer or like the Ethereum layer or so forth to try to figure out like what other like guts are being built and redesigned. And I think there's some scary stuff out there that kind of needs more research. So I'm happy that you're doing a lot on your show because I think that there is not enough research being done in left circles.
Right. Listen, let me say it. Okay. So Web3 is how all of this stuff is being spun. Like obviously their whole, a lot of the VCs and tech people are saying, if Web 2.0 was the social web, obviously Web 1 is like, server, like people, web hosting, creating your own website. And then Web 2 is the social web. They're pushing Web 3 is like everyone gets like, everything's on the blockchain so everyone could own a piece of the pie. And it's like, to me, it's like, what is the purpose of that? Just like you're saying in terms of it being like really depressing in many ways. Like the previous, let's take the social web. Regardless of what your feelings are on Facebook and Twitter and all these other platforms, and obviously people have made a lot of money off these platforms, still the underlying, other than the money, but the underlying thing that they were selling, their belief was that, we're putting together a way for people to connect, for people to communicate in ways that were impossible for. And I again, whether you think it's a net positive or net negative, they did succeed in many ways. Like regardless of what social media platform you're on, I'm sure you're talking to people who you never would have talked to, and I'm sure a lot of those conversations, along with the bad ones, I'm sure a lot of them are good too. I think that is an aspirational goal, something that gives to the greater good. And obviously, I wish people did not commodify it to the point where they've made tons of money. But sure, people are obviously going to make money off of a product or service like that. With Web3, what they're basically selling the idea that you too can sell everything. And I don't see how that's freeing. Like they're saying, oh, Mark Zuckerberg got a piece of the pie. Why don't you get one too? But what if you don't want a piece of the? First of all, you're not getting a piece of the pie. Like the idea that you are going to have the same ability to invest in the same money-making scheme that all these VCs are investing in is bullshit. You're not going to. Again, will there be lucky people? Sure. Just like there was with the social web, and we have the Mark Zuckerbergs and Jack Dorseys who got rich. But when you go on Twitter or Facebook or YouTube, you're not inundated with the idea that you too can be rich if you throw your money down. You just use the product or service. Web3 is trying to convince everyone to give all these people money with the idea of they too will be rich, and it's just bullshit. It's just not true. And from what you bring up, it's concerning, because that would really be a entire change up of what the internet is. Because this isn't just like a few services. This is saying that like everything will become this. Like obviously you see Facebook is pushing the whole metaverse.
As I said to you, I think this is one of the darkest conversations that kind of like would be had, of like the bad routes that it really can go. It's like it's bad enough that we can't get our food in real life, but now we're going to want to look a certain way in the digital space.
Right.
And that isn't a good way to go.
Right. And listen, I have no problem. Like, I don't think, buying a ticket to a digital concert is in the same realm as this, because I think that is an exchange of a good. I don't have a problem with that. I don't even really think.
But mostly what I'm trying to say is I think that when you buy the ticket to go to that concert, you're gonna. I think there's a high probability that in 2025 or near-term future, people will rent an NFT from somebody else to wear to there. And I call this kind of like the Cinderella slipper thing, where like you have like this shirt that I'm wearing for like 5 hours, and then it like comes off, and then you're back to like your regular avatar or so forth. So this is the future that I feel that we're kind of being like conditioned for. And I guess like maybe to wrap up, because you said it was going to be like a short call, or we can go for a long time if you wanted to. But be cautious if things are given for free. I was listening to Jerome Lanier today, who is one of like the integral and important people early on in internet spaces. And he said that at the beginning of the internet, it was a battle between like open source and like wanting to like make a product and make profit off of it. So what they did was like what they thought was the best for all worlds, and did the advertising model, because it seemed like it was free and it seemed like everybody was getting what they wanted to. But in the end, we realized like it was just about complete data monitoring and so forth. And so if you're given these kind of free NFTs in the future, do it with like a very leery and skeptical eye, because I do feel it is just getting people to be, I don't even like using the word conditioned or talking about it too much in case it does come. But yeah, conditioning people to like have this quote scarcity or like replication of aesthetic in digital spaces. And I mean, it is going to be VR, AR. There's like, I was even looking at one of the spaces, like for what you and I do, like it would be kind of nice to have like VR headset and monitors. But I think that like with the research that I've done lately, I am going to be resisting any VR, even if they're like work upgrades for me, at least for a little while.
Right. Like that whole world can be really cool if they don't involve this whole Web3 blockchain crypto NFT bullshit. Like it doesn't need to come with that. Just like, you don't need, for example, Tesla. Tesla doesn't need to make these cars with all this, the big screens in them and all this extra bullshit. If they really wanted to move everyone to electronic vehicles for the good of the environment, they could make a much cheaper electric vehicle without all that extra bullshit. But they put that in so they could make more money, right? I mean, what like if you really wanted to get everyone on electric vehicles, you'd make a really cheap electric car, but no, he's got to throw in all the accessories and all the computer system, and then it pumps up the price, and so he can make a nice tidy little profit, and less people drive electric cars.
Yeah. I appreciate you taking my call and the time.
I think you're absolutely right. I've been saying similar stuff. I mean, I don't have a problem with people logging into Fortnite and buying attire for their character. I think that's a product that if that's appealing to you, buy it. But what we're talking about here is something completely different, and I think it has the ability to really change the way people see the internet. And if it catches on, I think we're looking at a world where everyone is looking to make something off of things that we all take for granted. Like someone brought up one really concerning thing was I got into a discussion with someone on Twitter, and I'm sorry for keep going, but I just wanted to make this one last point. Imagine if Wikipedia editors didn't have to volunteer their time and they made a profit off of their edits on the blockchain. And I cannot think of a more disgusting, despicable thing, because Wikipedia is probably one of the purest forms of what's good about the internet. People dedicating their time to making sure accurate knowledge is free for all. And these people take this job that they don't get paid for extremely seriously. And the fact that they don't get paid for it, in my opinion, I mean, do I wish it would be cool if they were able to receive tips via Patreon or something maybe, but the fact that they're not getting paid by any entity from it is probably good for the fact that they're not biased in any way, and they're actually doing it for the accuracy of the and free cost of the knowledge. It's
impossible for some people to conceptualize that there are things people will do without a profit motive.
Right. Right.
Yeah. That you can say that to some people, and you can kind of watch the gears just grind of not able to comprehend.
Right.
Can I leave with a story that might be I think important to cover in the next coming time?
Yeah, perfect. Go ahead.
Oh, wonderful. There's been, in my opinion, a big emerging market international currency crisis taking place. It's been going on in Sri Lanka, Lebanon, Turkey has been kind of the most recent example this week. But a quick little in-look as to what's been going on in Sri Lanka. Their foreign exchange reserves at the central bank has just been completely diminished. The currency has plummeted in value. They've defaulted against a bunch of loans. Bond yields have gone up massively. So they had to shut down their only oil refinery 2 days ago in order to keep enough money to be able to buy food imports and medicine imports. And they're trying to get a cash swap with India. The thing that I try to bring this up is I'm kind of an adherent to the dollar milkshake theory of the emerging markets due to structuring of these loans and the way that the dollars work and so forth. And it has been just taking country down after country down. And I don't think that it's spoken enough about in kind of the U.S. circles, because we don't look into finance as much, or monetary systems as much. It's kind of where I ended up going into. But yeah, so I think there's some stuff going on that kind of needs to be chatted about on the very scale.
All right. Sounds good. I'll have to look more into that, honestly. Thanks for calling in. Always a pleasure. I really enjoyed this conversation. Definitely call in again in the future.
All right. Yeah. Thank you for your time. Have a good night, everybody. And thanks for listening.
There are a few more people trying to call in. I'll take one, maybe two more calls. So feel free to call in. And then I want to do a story or two. Probably go. How long have I been streaming for? How long have I been streaming? What happened to my? What? How long has the stream been on for? I can't even see it right now. Oh, 2.5 hours. Jeez. All right. I'm probably going to take... all right, let me take this call. Hey, what's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, this is Philbo from San Marcos, Texas.
Hey, Philbo. What would you like to talk about?
Yeah, so I want to talk about COVID and vaccinations, and I guess really Alex Jones and well, not Alex Jones, but I think I'm still getting the. Gotta pause the feed.
I'm
Okay.
sorry. I'm going to have to let you go. You don't want to talk about crypto or Bitcoin or NFTs. I can't. No, I'm joking. Go ahead. This is perfect.
Sorry,
of fresh,
yeah,
breath
sorry, I
of
had
fresh
to
air.
pause the-
Breath of fresh air.
I had to pause the YouTube and I got a little distracted for a second. But yeah. So Alex Jones was down, or Tim Pool was down in Austin, I guess, and he was hanging out with Alex and Joe.
I saw
on
this.
his
Yeah.
bus or whatever, and so they got into interesting conversation, and I guess I don't know. Sorry, I got a little frazzled and really excited to talk to you, Matt. Big fan.
Oh, why? Thank you.
But yeah, so like, so he got COVID and he said give his whole laundry list of things, and everyone knows it was the monoclonal antibodies that were like the big thing. And that's like that's what everybody gets whenever they haven't been vaccinated and they're having a hard time. They go to the hospital. I've known people who personally have gotten it, and not who gotten it, didn't want to get vaccinated, ended up needing to get the monoclonal antibodies, and like basically turn them around like overnight, and they were able to get through it, kind of thing. Just like what Joe Rogan said, just like what Tim Pool said, and like so that they get to talking about this stuff, and they're like, oh yeah, and like Joe starts to like play like, oh I wasn't saying it was the ivermectin. I just like that was what everybody focused on. Like it was the monoclonal antibodies, which is like totally not how he had been playing it the whole time. Like he focused on the fact that everyone talked about the ivermectin, but he brought it up in the first place. But the thing is like, and eventually they kind of get to talking more and more about it, and Tim Pool brings it up, like the thing that I think that has been not been focused on enough with the monoclonal antibodies, and I guess people haven't been focusing on it because they want people to take them, but like they have the same emergency use authorization that that the vaccine has. So like it's all like it's like in that moment when they talked about it in the bus. And if you want to see it, if anybody watching wants to see it, Hassan watched it on his stream, so you can watch the video of that, and you don't have to watch Tim Pool's video or whatever. But they know that like their whole thing is just like, it was like a very self-aware moment where like they knew that everything that they talk about with the vaccines and like it's experimental, it's like they don't care about it, because like when the rubber meets the road and they actually need the help, like they'll take whatever it is and that works, and they take what the FDA has given the emergency use authorization of. And that's, for the same reasons that they gave emergency use authorizations for the vaccines. Like they've gone through like expedited trials, safety trials and things like that like still demonstrate they're safe, but they like not in like the long traditional form that take a really, really long time. But like, and so that's just like, and the person that I know personally that ended up on monoclonal antibodies is like a PhD in like arboriculture and stuff like that. So like not not someone who you'd think would be prone to like falling for misinformation, but those things are strong. Those are really strong forces out in our society right now. But yeah, it's just like, it blows my mind that like they'll still take that emergency use authorization with the monoclonal antibodies without a second thought. Like no complaints, no one's talking about that stuff. Like, and that's what these people get when they get serious COVID and they end up needing to go to the doctor.
Right. I mean, these guys are I think we've said it probably at least a dozen, if not more times, covering this on this show and on the Majority Report. They have connections and money that the vast majority of their viewers do not have. And the things that they push in terms of medication or just basically how to go about your daily life during a pandemic are not in tune with how their viewers live their lives or how much money they make. And the fact that they did these things, they said they played down the severity of the pandemic. And then when they got sick They played down the vaccines as well. And then when they got sick, they used their connections to get the right doctors, to connect them with the right expensive treatments that they were able to pay for, or in Tim Pool's case, got Joe Rogan to pay for him. So irresponsible, because no one they talk to on their show, their viewership, has those connections and that money. And if they got COVID, they're looking at a lot worse of a time than Joe Rogan and Tim Pool had. So it is gross in every sense of the word, to be quite honest.
Yeah, it's beyond disgusting, and I know, like, I can almost, like, probably, I just know, like, I have friends that who decided not to get vaccinated and listen to Joe Rogan over, like, me when I talk about it, and that's, like, beyond frustrating, because it's like people I've known for a long time and stuff like that, and it's just like, yeah, but like you said, Joe Rogan has access to good medical care, like, and a doctor that, like, that, like, most of the people that I know don't have access to. And, like, my my parents' friend who got really sick with it, didn't want the vaccine, was taking ivermectin the whole time, but got monoclonal antibodies. Like, he had access to a doctor, and, like, that's really the big thing, is, like, where people, like, they don't have access to a doctor. And that's, like, what Tim Pool's thing, what he said in that, in there, like, that whole, I don't know, it was like 6 people in the bus. It was kind of a wild, loud, rambunctious interview. But he was saying, like, talk to your doctor repeatedly. And it's like, but most people don't have access to a doctor. Like, that was the whole reason why so many people were behind the Bernie Sanders campaign, is like, we understand we need, universal access to doctors, without any sort of impediment. And that's not where we're at as a country,
Right. Thank you for the call. Really appreciate it. This was,
I just appreciate it, getting a chance to speak my mind. Thanks, man.
You could call into this show anytime. I take calls. I know you're a first-time caller. Feel free to call in anytime. Really,
I called in a while. I called in.
Oh, you did? Yeah, I thought you sounded
a while
familiar.
back. Yeah. It was a while back. It was actually right after Michael died, and I was thinking about Michael a lot this past week, and so.
I thought you sounded
reach out
familiar,
again.
but then you were talking about how you're so happy to speak with me, and sounded like a first-time caller. Because I was like, usually the people who've called in already, they're not so happy to speak with me. It's good to know, though. I still have that effect on you, even in your subsequent phone calls.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's been a while, and I actually did mean to come on camera, but I realized I forgot to turn my camera on here. But
it's all right. Next time.
Next time, yeah, for sure.
Take care. Have a great night.
Yeah, you too.
All right, I'm gonna take one last call, and then I want to do a story or two, and then we're done. Last call, and then what was I gonna say? Renee, call in after this call. Renee. Okay. All right. Cool. Hey, what's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hi, is this me?
This is you. Let me. You cool with me putting you on the screen?
Yeah.
Cool. Yep. This is you. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Okay, I'm Philippe from Chicago area, but actually, I would like to cede my time to Renee if that's okay, because I kind of want Renee to get. I'm jonesing for some Renee talk.
He actually has a reason to call that's going to be really short. So if you just have something quick to say, it's not going to take over.
All right. What do you think about the Safe Tech Act? If you know about it, it's I can explain a little bit more.
The safe sounds familiar.
It's okay. So it's
maybe this is a call to have at a later date. Is that cool? Would you mind calling in either the next time I stream?
I'm just gonna say it's Senate Bill 299, I think, and I think it was introduced February of this year. It's associated with Klobuchar and Mark Warner, and EFF does not like it.
Oh, this is the one. Okay. You know what? Let's save this, though, because I think it would be better. Thanks for calling in. Definitely call back in again. Renee, call in if you're still there. If not, I'm gonna go to this. What I want to do here. All right, I guess he's not gonna call in, but the reason I wanted him to call in is because he let me know that today is Renee's birthday. So happy birthday, Renee. I hope you're having. I don't have a show. Oh, here we go. Okay, cool. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Right. Where was that when I was trying to call in as Alfred Hitchcock?
Happy birthday, Renee. How are you?
Great. Yeah, I feel already 49 years old, so I'm in between you and your dad. I guess I'm reaching Sam Cedar years.
Ooh. All right, Renee. I just wanted to wish you a very happy birthday.
Yeah.
I don't know if
short and sweet, and also
I don't know if you could hear
hopefully
these.
the left wins the Chilean elections this Sunday.
Oh, okay. You'll have to call in the next show then to tell me what happened. That's perfect.
Okay.
All right. Happy birthday, Renee. I hope you have a great birthday.
I changed the angle.
I don't think you'll hear them on the Skype call. So jump off the Skype call. I'm gonna play you a number of birthday sound effects. So go.
Okay. I was just hoping for the.
Oh, I'm gonna play you. I'll play you a few. So go on the YouTube channel again, Renee. Here we go. Happy birthday, buddy. Renee, these are the birthday sounds for you. One of the most constant viewers of this show, always there in the chat, regularly calling in. Let me make sure the sound effect is up. Happy birthday, Renee. I hope you have a great day. I hope you receive all the presents, all the gifts, all the birthday cake that you want. And, if, you're looking for a place to go for a birthday vacation, maybe, may I recommend Havana?
No.
All right, let's go. I'm hanging up the phone calls now, everybody. I know there's a lot of people who didn't get to call in. I'm so sorry. A lot of calls tonight, and a lot of people who didn't get through. We're on 3 hours of the show now, and I need to do a story or two to cut for YouTube segments. So I am going to log out of Skype. Let's do this. Who should I know you guys will enjoy this one. This is a guy that people, I think, most people who listen to my show, and if they know of him, don't like. Okay. Let's do this. You probably already recognize him. I'm just getting the time code I want to get to. All right, so okay, so I should probably move myself over. If this is where Jackson goes on his stream, I should go on this side. All right, so for those of you who don't recall, earlier this year during the summer, there was this viral claim that spread like wildfire on social media, where AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, had been lying to everybody about her background, her history, how she grew up and came into the political realm, the political arena, I should say. And this viral claim was that she wasn't just some lowly bartender working behind the bar at a restaurant in Manhattan. No. She was, in fact, the owner of the bar. She was secretly a rich, wealthy Manhattan bar owner, subjugating her employees to labor to low-paid labor, while presenting herself as the working class. This all turned out to be bullshit. I was one of the people who debunked it. Obviously, this was bullshit. I mean, come on. But Jackson Hinkle was the guy whose claim really went viral. Now, he got it from, it's a big surprise, a guest on the Jimmy Dore show. Swearingen, that woman who ran for Congress in West Virginia. But it was his repeating of it on Twitter is what really gave the claim legs, and he didn't look into it at all. Just listened to what he heard on the Jimmy Dore show, and decided to share it with everybody on Twitter, and boom, it went viral. He has a problem now, apparently, with Jimmy Dore. Not Jimmy Dore, excuse me. No, he has no problem with Jimmy Dore. He has a problem with Sam Seder of the Majority Report calling out Jimmy Dore for Dore's extremely irresponsible fake news that he spread concerning COVID vaccines. Now, I covered this on my show as well. Turns out that an investigation by YouTuber Sean found that Jimmy Dore completely misrepresented a news story in Fortune. The news story claimed that Singapore had a very high vaccination rate, and they had gone into full lockdowns early on in the pandemic, prior to vaccines, and kept their COVID cases level extremely low. One of the lowest in the world. They were a great success story. And due to the high vaccination rates, they eased the lockdown measures and all the other COVID mandates they had, COVID prevention mandates they had, because of the very high vaccine levels. And due to this, they had a big rise in cases. This is obvious. That's obviously going to happen. When everyone was spread apart and locked down in their homes, COVID cases are going to be down low. Everyone gets vaccinated, the virus still spreads, but the vaccines keep people out of the hospital and from dying. That is what happened. The vaccines are also a success there. But the cases rose because lockdowns were eased. Jimmy Dore said Jimmy Dore, in his original telling of it, edited the story. And in his edit, he made it seem like the cases rose with the lockdown measures and other COVID prevention mandates in place. Now, Dore blamed his producer, said his producer changed the story without him knowing. He fired his producer. And that's that in that aspect. People obviously then are free to criticize Dore regardless, because it's his show, his responsibility. He spread fake news. And Jackson Hinkle's out there really bothered by the fact that people would dare to criticize Dore. He went after Sam Seder. And also he goes after me. Let's take a look at this clip. It was sent to me by a Twitter user at NotMeBus. Thank you for letting me know about this. Here we go. This is clip one of two.
Imagine if they actually did that, right? This is what accountability looks like and taking responsibility for actions looks like, right? And you know, I've said incorrect things too. I've tweeted incorrect things. I think we all know what I'm talking about. Not my most recent tweet, that's correct. But you guys might remember I tweeted out something about AOC that, though not disproven, it was never proven.
I gotta pause it there. Though not disproven, it was never proven. You are the one who has to prove the claim that AOC owned a bar. I can show you, and I did, all the evidence that refutes that, but there is not going to be an official document saying AOC did not own a bar. That's not how things work. There's no license that says I did not own something. I did not run a bar business. The onus is on you to prove she did. You did not, because she did not. And the idea that you are still disputing this some 6 months almost after the fact shows that no, in fact, you did not take accountability. You deleted your claim because everyone was ragging on you and you couldn't take the heat because you couldn't prove it. So you deleted it to save your own ass.
So I took it down. I issued a statement and I retracted it, right? Because, you know, there was no evidence to back that up. So
yeah, exactly. No evidence to back it up. That's what this is all about. That's what this is called, right? You didn't have the evidence to back it up. No one has to disprove it. It's on you to prove it.
This is Jimmy explaining the fact that you know, he's taking accountability.
All right. Okay. He took accountability by blaming his producer. That's taking accountability. And he fired the guy. I actually don't think that was the right move. I think that's kind of harsh. Especially if there was no nefarious reason behind it. Obviously, if the person came out and said, yeah, Jimmy, I purposely lied. Sure, okay. But I don't think that's what happened. It doesn't seem like it, at least. Maybe it did, though, I guess. We'll have to find out, maybe. Maybe the producer will reach out. The former producer will reach out to me. I would love to talk to that person. And let's go to the next clip here. All right, here we go. So he just played a clip of Sam saying Jimmy Dore does not give a fuck about you, which is true. Jimmy Dore doesn't care. By his push for anti-vaxxer content and anti-vaccine mandate content, it shows that he doesn't care about your health, Jimmy Dore viewer. But let's watch this clip from Jackson Hinkle, this next clip.
In that video that someone produced a lie. Yeah, it was the fucking producer. It was the producer. That producer was fired. Accountability was taken. Jimmy, as far as he has explained, was not aware, was not privy to that edit. Therefore, that producer has been fired because they told a lie. So I don't know what more people like Sam want from Jimmy, but, you know, Sam can't go through like a given episode without, you know, discussing Jimmy Dore and making a video.
What is their hang up on this? That Majority Report or myself or any critic of Jimmy Dore covers or talks about Jimmy Dore. Jimmy Dore has almost 1 million subscribers on YouTube. He has video. How many views do his videos usually get? Let me take a quick look here. The Jimmy Dore Show YouTube, 912,000 subscribers. Let me look up specifically the COVID content. We got Fauci's greatest COVID failures exposed, almost 50,000 views. COVID surges among vaccinated in all caps. In Israel, that's 314,000 views. California COVID rates double in Florida, 118,000 views. These get hundreds of thousands of views, his COVID content. I think it's very important then to cover what he says about this stuff. I don't understand. You guys critique mainstream media, right? We do that too. Because why? Because they have a reach And it's important to cover this stuff, right? It's important to call them out for their bullshit, right? Why do you think you are any different? Do you think you're just not important enough? Or we're literally doing what you want, right? We want to take, you say that people should take your stuff more seriously than mainstream media, right? So we are. We're taking you at least just as seriously as mainstream media, and we're covering you. And we're calling out your bullshit just like we do at mainstream media. I don't understand what the hang up is with us covering what you guys do, unless the idea is that we're blowing your spot and letting your audience know that Jimmy Dore, and I'm assuming Jackson Hinkle too, are bullshit artists as well. Then, of course, you'd want to say, oh, why are you picking on us? Please, pick my shit apart. I got nothing to hide. Why wouldn't you want someone to cover your shit? So bizarre.
Jimmy Dore. This is his entire fucking. He's like, it's like the Majority Report is the fucking Jimmy Dore fan club. So Ken, of course, tweets this out. Matt Binder.
Ooh, what? Excuse me? Excuse me? Mr. Henkel? It's Binder. How dare you?
This guy. Kim Ford, thank you for the super chat. I appreciate you. Thank you so much.
I like how
By the way, those of you watching on YouTube, be sure to drop a like. It does help us boost in the algorithm. I appreciate you. So Matt Binder. Okay, yes. This guy came after me once. Okay, so he's Majority Report. He works for the Majority Report, I guess. He's on the Majority.
I came after you once? You're making it seem like I had a personal vendetta. I came after you to hold you accountable for the AOC lie that you told and spread on social media. I held you accountable. If I did not put you on blast over that lie, you would have never taken accountability because it was my work. And I'm not someone, there were other people who debunked you too, but it was my shit that went viral calling you out for the lie. I'm the one who held you accountable. You didn't do this out of your own free will. You didn't do the research later on and decide, oh, I was wrong. No, I called you out. I went after you. I put you on blast and completely called you out on your bullshit lie. And that is the reason you held yourself accountable. I came after you. Get the fuck out of here.
Report. And he's going after Jimmy as well. He says, if you are the now former Jimmy Dore show producer who Dore says he fired over this, do feel free to reach out. Why do you think the Jimmy Dore producer would reach out to you?
Because he got fired from the Jimmy Dore show and maybe he'd want to talk to somebody about it. Do you think he's happy about losing his job? You don't think the way this whole thing went down would leave somebody disgruntled? Where do you think reporters get their sources from? That's like a major avenue to talk to someone who has insider information on something that you might be interested in. Or, I'm sorry, these truth tellers probably don't know that's something that would make sense for a journalist to do.
Why do you think he would reach out to you? Sure, he's not happy, but he also acknowledged that it was his fault. He edited this. He said,
"Did he? Did the producer acknowledge it was his fault?" As far as maybe Hinkle knows the guy, and maybe that's where he got the information from. Totally possible. As far as I know, there's been no public statement from the producer, the former producer. If there is, please show me.
I did a dumb thing, or I did an idiotic thing, and I made a mistake.
Again, are you putting words in this person's mouth? I have not heard any of this from anyone. I have not heard from the producer or from someone who claims to have known the producer say that the producer's come out and said, I did something stupid and idiotic. I deserve to be fired from the Jimmy Dore show. I could be wrong. Maybe it exists and I didn't see it, or I wasn't in on this. Maybe it was a private email or message that went around and those pro-door circles. I don't know. Please let me know about it.
Thank you,
In
Jay.
Switzerland and other countries, if you had COVID before, you only need 1 dose of vaccine to be considered fully vaccinated. Unlike the
What is
US,
this? Oh, he's got one of those.
2 doses.
I would never put on one of these. Let's continue.
That's interesting. I wonder what happens if you've had it like 3 or 4 times, like myself. That's really interesting. So
You've had COVID 3 or 4 times? What are you doing? Are you purposely licking people's disposable masks out of when you like ripping them out of the trash and licking the inside of the disposable mask? How have you had COVID 3 or 4 times? You work in the medical field? I mean, I've spoken to medical professionals who've dealt with COVID patients who haven't had COVID 3 or 4 times.
Binder smeared Magnus Prinvidia. I'm not surprised. So
I smeared Magnus Panvidia. The Boogaloo Boy Jimmy Dore had on his show to portray the Boogaloo Boys as something positive or something progressive when they are not. That's how I smeared that guy. I did a complete debunking of the Boogaloo Boys.
look, we have Matt Binder here who's saying this shit. Is it Matt Binder or Bender? I guess it doesn't really matter. He's a shitlib at the end of the day. So
that's Matt Shitlib to you, buddy. Shitlib Bender.
Why do you think he would reach out to you? Like, again, the producer acknowledged that he did a, quote, idiotic thing. He edited this shit together. And it was a lie. It was misrepresentation. I don't understand, like, why Matt thinks that, like, he's some sort of a disgruntled employee or something. He admitted to it. But they have it
again. Where? Please, somebody. I want to have this information. I would love to know if this is a thing. Did the producer come out and say, I fucked up? It's all on me? I would love to see it. Or are you regurgitating what Jimmy Dore said the producer said? Because that's hearsay.
like calculated in their head. You want to know why he's tweeting this out, actually? I'll tell you why Matt Binder tweeted this out. Matt Binder tweeted this out because he and Sam and Emma all hate Jimmy Dore so much that they honestly believe that Jimmy's making this shit up about the producer and that he just used the producer as a scapegoat to fire him, right?
What? No, he's Zoe asked, did you go back in the vid or is he fully repeating himself? He's fully repeating himself. I did not rewind this video at all. I mean, I don't know what Sam Cedar and Emma claimed. I am my own individual. Just because I'm on the majority report doesn't mean I share a brain with Emma and Sam. Emma and Sam don't even share the same brain. So I've been quite clear that I believe this producer is a real individual, judging by the fact that I tweeted out I would like to talk to this person that acknowledges that they exist. And I don't know if Jimmy is throwing this producer under the bus. That's why I want to talk to the producer. I would love to know what happened. I mean, it is Jimmy's show. The buck stops with him regardless of what happened. But, I mean, my tweet that's sitting on your screen, Jackson Hinkle, completely refutes what you were claiming of me.
That's why he tweeted this out. He honestly believes that said producer right now is probably sitting at home pissed off without a job because Jimmy Dore made up a lie about him editing this together.
I mean, I would be pretty pissed if I got fired from my job. I mean, this isn't some like major corporation. Jimmy Dore probably works with this person every single day. How many people work in Jimmy? I could tell you from my experience working at the Majority Report that I worked directly with Sam Cedar every single day for 5 years of my life. Me, Sam. There was a time where there were our earlier producers. It was me, Sam, and Evan. And then there was a time period where Evan left, and it was me and Sam for a little bit. Just me and Sam working side by side every day. And then he brought in a few shorter term producers. Always just 3 people usually. And then he brought in Michael Brooks. And it was just me and Michael Brooks and Sam Cedar every single day in a single room, hours together for years. And so, yeah, if I made a mistake, I can tell you that if it wasn't done on purpose to hijack or hurt the show purposefully in any way, and it was an honest mistake, Sam would not have fired me because, I mean, we were working in a progressive atmosphere. And I mean, I'm in a union now at my job. I'm in the News Guild. And I can tell you that if I made a mistake, I would not be fired because I'm protected by my union. There's a process. I'd have to be reprimanded. I'd have to be given warnings. I would not be fired. Because if you're in a pro-labor atmosphere, unless this person was out to literally hurt Jimmy Dore, did this purposefully to make him look stupid, had nefarious purposes to doing this, the guy made a mistake. I don't see how you consider yourself to be pro-labor and cheer on the firing of this guy if it was an honest mistake.
That's how brainwashed Matt Binder and Sam Cedar are, that they actually think this is what happened, rather than the truth that the producer did this without the knowledge of Jimmy Dore and gave it to him, and Jimmy said this live to however many tens of thousands or however many thousands of people were watching, right? It's crazy.
I mean, it's not.
It's crazy, but that's how brainwashed they are with this like obsession with an anti-Jimmy Dore sentiment, right?
I mean, it's not for no reason.
It's crazy.
It's not crazy.
Borker.
It's not crazy. It's funny, that we're the ones obsessed with Jimmy Dore, right? I guess. But, he's defending Jimmy Dore firing somebody. You think this producer his claim that the producer came out and said it was my fault. Do you think the producer also came out and said, it's my fault, I did it on purpose to smear and defame Jimmy Dore? I mean, because unless that happened, this guy's got no idea. He's got no idea. No idea. And, God, I feel like I'm too tired to do this. I did a BBC radio hit earlier today on the Constitution DAO. It's a crypto thing. God, do I want to? All right, I'll do it. Because I really do want to do it. And if I'm too tired to make myself sound good, I just won't clip it, and this will just be on the live stream. Let's. Oh, is the Surfs? Oh, the Surfs are in the chat here. Look at that. Let me see what. Oh, Matt, what drama did you get yourself into this time? Oh boy, I got. I should let you guys know. So Jimmy Dore did not reach out to me over my segment breaking down his Kyle Rittenhouse segment. But his guest in the video, Matt Orphalee, or Orphalia, at Orf on Twitter, he did reach out to me. And you guys all know my feelings about this shit. You engage. I respect it. I respect that you engage. I don't care. No matter what your politics are, I respect that you're engaging. I'm not saying I respect you or respect your point of view, or that goes on a person by person basis. But there is a level of respect I have just for engaging. I think that it shows you're someone who's at least willing to defend what you are saying and letting the audience decide based on that discourse. I respect that. So he reached out to me and he wants to discuss the video. So I will be discussing the Rittenhouse situation, the whole thing, and what really went down with Orphalia. I think it'll be interesting. I don't know him so well. From what I've seen, I don't think, maybe I'm wrong, I don't think there's a grift. From what I understand of his history, this is who he is. This has been his ideology throughout, just because he was a Bernie supporter. This is the guy who joined the Bernie campaign and got fired the same day. He's that video producer. It came out that he had listen, I didn't necessarily have a problem with it. I saw what he was trying to do with this video, but I could see why people had a problem with it. He had a video inappropriately editing a MLK speech. My opinion on it really doesn't matter, though, because, I mean, if people have a problem with that, then, you have to take that into consideration. And the Bernie campaign decided they didn't want a part of it. So I'll be talking with him about it. Glenn Greenwald's a big fan of his. Glenn Greenwald got him a Rumble deal. The guy is on Rumble with an official official Rumble deal. All right. I will talk the Constitution DAO, and then that'll be the show. So I don't want to go too long on this, but I think it's good to have a brief summary of what went on, because I think people are interested in this. If you haven't heard about it, it's certainly interesting, and it's ongoing too. So the auction house Sotheby's announced a few months ago that it was going to put on sale an original copy of the U.S. Constitution. And apparently, this is like the first time in 33 years, apparently, this was going to happen. And this was also, if I understand correctly, if I remember correctly, the only copy of the original copy of the U.S. Constitution that was in a private collection. And I believe like the heir of some like real estate developer bought it in the 80s for like $180,000 or something like that. And Sotheby's put it on auction, and the auction was today. And I believe they were looking, I don't remember what their price was. I think they were expecting like 20 million or something like that, maybe. So obviously, price goes up, right? From the 80s to now, that's a big jump. And a few people, a few strangers on the internet had an idea to use a DAO, basically to crowdfund a like project, I guess you can call it, for everyone to chip in, or as many people as possible to chip in to raise the funds to purchase the U.S. Constitution. And I know what you're saying right now, Matt. A DAO? What is that? I'm not a crypto person. That's fine. That's fine. A DAO stands for DAO, stands for a decentralized autonomous organization. And you're probably saying, what is that? Okay. So it's basically like a co-op. A bunch of people get together and form a group to all chip in crypto to make large purchases, basically, if they want to do that. But in a greater sense, and this is what happened here, but in a larger sense, basically for like a decentralized way for this group to make decisions. They vote based on, their tokens say they have ownership in this DAO, and they all vote and decide things. DAOs are all different. Most of them throughout the history they've been around have crashed and burned. There was a famous example called the DAO, where a hacker basically got into the DAO and stole like $50 million from them. So for the most part, not been too successful. Decentralized organizations tend to not be successful. If you actually took part in one, you would see how it goes down. I can tell you from my experience at Occupy Wall Street, while that was something that probably drew a lot of people in and sounded, heroic in a sense, it doesn't work out. It just doesn't. It doesn't. There needs to be some hard decision making at some juncture. Otherwise, it just the flames fan out. I wish it wasn't true. But that's just what happens. Decentralization has not worked. It's that simple. It's part of the reason why I'm also critical of the blockchain and Web3 and crypto as a whole in general. But anyway, back to Constitution DAO specifically. So these strangers got together and decided that they were going to form a DAO, the Constitution DAO, and raise funds to buy the U.S. Constitution. And listen, I looked into this. There's nothing that seems suspect about any of these people. I out of all the crypto projects out there, I mean, this seemed like a fairly harmless one in terms of, like, obviously the usual issues with energy consumption and environmental issues, but I didn't see an obvious scam here, and the people behind it were not hiding their identities per se. At least from what we know so far. You never know what's going to happen. This is an ongoing thing. But the thing here is sort of, what is the utility of crypto here? They did end up raising, I believe it was $41 million in the span of about a week. And the question for that people are asking is, wow, what a great thing crypto can do. But what was the utility of crypto here? Crowdfunding has been going on forever. You can crowdfund on GoFundMe, on Kickstarter, on Indiegogo. There's nothing unique to crypto about this, except one thing. And it's probably why this was so successful. It was a marketing scheme. Without the crypto angle, would this group of people have been able to crowdfund $41 million? Probably not. Certainly not in that short span of time. But the crypto marketing scheme pulled in all the crypto evangelists and advocates and marketing gurus and snake oil salesmen, and they pumped their money into this basically to market and promote and push crypto. I mean, so if you look at it like that, sure, crypto in a sense was necessary, But again, you need to add that addendum that as a marketing scheme. I mean, you had major backing in some sense. You had venture capitalists pumping money into this, like pro-crypto VCs. You had Coinbase, the major crypto exchange, a public company tweeting about it, promoting it while adding the little, this is not financial advice addendum, but promoting it nonetheless. I just saw Constitution DAO thanking Morning Brew, which is ostensibly supposed to be a journalistic media outlet. So I don't know what they were doing promoting it. I don't know what their promotion was. Maybe they just covered it and Constitution DAO thanked them for getting in early on covering it. If that was it, then I mean, fine, they didn't do anything wrong, but I don't know why. There are a lot of outlets covered it. So I don't know why they specifically thanked Morning Brew. A lot of, I'm not saying this is, I don't know why, but I will say this, a lot of sketchy shit in the startup media world. I mean, there's been a history of TechCrunch, doing things that I don't think are so cool for a journalistic media outlet to do in terms of when they cover startups and other tech. But, this is my opinion. And also they didn't do anything illegal. Just saying, scrupulous morals in terms of covering this stuff. But they raised the money. They raised the money via Ethereum too, I should say. So, if you how many people was this again? This was a lot of people. It was, I think over 17,000 people contributed. Right, that's a lot. But again, they raised $41 million, so 71,000 people. There were some big spenders in there who put in a lot of money. They all used the Ethereum network. They all had to pay exorbitant gas fees. There's the fee to get your Ethereum, Ether. And then there's the fee of sending the Ether on Ethereum to the crowdfunding platform the Constitution DAO is using. I was reading that some people are paying like $500 in fees. Just fees. So again, when you ask, could this only be done with crypto? I mean, imagine how much money if someone who sent $1,000 bucks and didn't have to pay $500 in Ethereum fees, how much they would have made minus those fees. If those fees weren't part of it, I should say. If you wanted to send $1,000 USD, you would have received $1,000 USD, maybe minus 10%. Probably less. I mean, I'm using like the platform's commission fees or whatever. I think they're like 5% some places, 10% some places. Depends. I think GoFundMe might be 0. So, but anyway, so the auction was today. Constitution DAO lost. The bidding went up to 43 million, I think. That was the final price, and they only raised, I think, 41 million. So someone outbid them, and they lost. Interesting enough, they didn't know they lost right away. There were organizers who thought they won it first, and that was the news that came out that they won. Decentralization's great, right? And that spread, and CoinDesk, the major crypto news outlet, actually reported, I should say, and spread a false story claiming they won. And their tweet was very promotional. Justin, Constitution DAO has won the auction for a first printing of one of America's founding documents in what could be a watershed moment for crypto native investment collectives. I mean, they lost. I still think it's worthy of noting that they raised all that money. Sure. I think, all things said, shouldn't downplay that. I should note, though, that the Constitution DAO, this big decentralized, everybody gets in effort and everyone has a say effort, not really, though. Let me explain. So if they had won the Constitution in the auction, there were 13 people who had to sign off on the wallet. Okay, so that's 13 people who had a say over $41 million. But then on top of that, they created a LLC to actually buy the Constitution, because Sotheby's could not accept the DAO as a legal entity. So they created this LLC, and on the LLC is two people. So the ownership of the Constitution really would have gone to the two individuals who owned the LLC that owned the Constitution. Are you gears turning on where this could go wrong here? On all the things that could go wrong here? And on top of that, they were also clear in their FAQ on what the buy-in gets you, the investment gets you. Those 17,000 people, they weren't buying a piece of the U.S. Constitution. They were buying a token that gave them a vote on where the Constitution gets shown. That's all this got you. You wouldn't have gotten a sliver of the ownership of the Constitution. You basically would have gotten what essentially, in my view, is a worthless token that gives you a vote on whether the Constitution should be shown at Museum A or Library B, for example. And, if that Constitution was sold off, how does that work out? I mean, but they lost. And now here's the thing. They promised refunds. There are no refunds. If they didn't win, they promised refunds. And they're saying they are going to, again, I want to be completely fair and legit here. They are saying they're going to refund everybody. But there are no refunds in crypto. There's no reversals. So they have to create 17,000 plus brand new transactions sending back all this money. Now, wait for this. All those gas fees I told you about that they had to pay to get, that the investors had to pay to get their crypto to the Constitution DAO? Well, you get hit with those same fees again going the other way. So we are basically looking at millions of dollars in gas fees to send back this money, this crypto, to the people who bought in. So they're going to get refunded, but they're not going to receive anywhere near what they actually gave. And essentially what you are seeing here is a project. If they decide, if they do the refunds, who knows? Again, there's nothing that shows they're not. I think I saw it the last time I checked. There was a discussion on maybe keeping the money to put it into another project, which I would not trust. It sounds sketchy. That was not the original deal. Something seems off there, but if that's what they all decide, who knows? Well, if that's what makes them happy, who am I to judge? But they did also say they're going to do the refund, so there's no scam here. Who knows what happened in the future? There's no rug pull or anything so far. Everything seems legit. But what is true, without a doubt, is if the refunds go through, you are looking at the transfer of large sums of money from basically seeing it evaporate. Those Ethereum gas fees go to the Ethereum miners who, let's be honest here, we pretend this is all decentralized and the miners control all this shit. the Bitcoin miners always have the bigger say than you, the generic average Bitcoin holder. Same with Ethereum and all the other crypto where miners play a part. I mean, this money, millions of dollars, evaporated for nothing. Went to the hands of these who already are very wealthy from this. This is the transfer of wealth here that crypto is supposed to do. Again, they got nothing from this. They got the feeling that they were part of something historic in the crypto industry. But the project didn't pan out. And, I mean, do I feel for the venture capitalists? And no, of course not. But I'm sure there are people who gave small sums of money in the big picture of the $41 million, but probably not small to them. And for what? For what? To spend money on fees, and that's it. It's like going to the ATM going to the ATM at like a club, at a bar that's not your own bank, where they purposely jack up the ATM fee and say the bar only takes cash. And, you get hit with like a $7 ATM fee, but you're only taking out $10. I mean, all your money goes to the fees, and for what? That's a, on one hand, I do, to be fair, see the success out of raising this large sum of money. But again, a lot of big money went into it from people who were using it to push crypto for their own financial gain. Maybe that's something too. Maybe those people didn't lose out. Maybe those Ethereum fees are worth it for all the press and the promotion of it that they got out of it. That's definitely a thing too, sure. But that doesn't help the small holders and the people who, put their money in and didn't have lots of money to lose out on fees for nothing. Like, this is really like so pointless in so many ways, really. So pointless in so many ways. All right, folks, that's the show for today. Thank you for tuning in. Patreon.com/Matt Binder. If you haven't already become a patron and would like to do so, really, I only ask for $5. You give less, you give more. $5 is the suggested price. Twitch.tv/Matt Binder, YouTube.com/Matt Binder. Folks, who should I raid on Twitch? Who should I raid on Twitch? Really quick. Who should I raid? Who should I raid? Let me get the whole raid thing ready so I could raid them. Raid them. Oh, I'll do unlockable airwaves. They're in the chat. I'm not gonna. I already did Amy EC3. I should raid Vosh. Not because I'm going to give him something, but because that way he would see and maybe I'd get something out of it. But Unelected Airwaves is in the... I was on an episode of Unelected Airwaves as a guest. Great guys. They're in the chat. I'm going to spread the love to a small growing channel. I really shouldn't, because one of them is a crypto bro. So that alone should make me not do that. But of course I will. They're great guys. I'm just joking. Setting that raid up right now. All right. See you all next time on Doomed.